Following the tower ancestors' shout, white-robed experts came out and distributed the medicinal ingredients. It was still the old rules. Each person was given 3 sets of ingredients. In other words, if you failed 3 times, you would immediately be eliminated. Various pill flames lit up. This time, the pill formula was extremely detailed. Even the order with which you should merge the powders had been fully explained. There was no need to grope about on your own. The main thing this pill tested was everyone's spiritual strength and their flame energy. Previously, they had only refined pills that could be finished quickly. To compare, previously they had been cooking stir-fry, but now they were simmering stew. They were competing in terms of endurance. Long Chen was a bit lost in thought. In truth, this overflowing sea-expanding pill was nothing to him. It couldn't even compare to the Enlightenment Palace pill. If he summoned the earth flame, Long Chen could refine it with his feet and still beat Huo Wufang. But the main thing was that Long Chen couldn't reveal the earth flame. If he did, then his status would be completely exposed. In all the eastern wasteland, the only one of his age who controlled an earth flame was Long Chen. It would be too obvious. But if he didn't use the earth flame, he wouldn't be able to defeat the first-ranking beast flame, the earth dragon Golden Blaze. Seeing Huo Wufang's disdainful expression, Long Chen had an urge to take off his shoe and slap him with it. This test was extremely favorable to Huo Wufang. His powerful pill flame gave him an immense advantage here, especially when it came to purifying the ingredients. He was already far ahead of everyone else. In the distance, Huo Changxing was looking at Huo Wufang confidently. This test had practically been made for Huo Wufang to win. Although his spiritual strength might be weaker than Long Chen's, so what? As long as you had enough to refine the pill, what was the point of having leftover spiritual strength? On the other hand, Chai Gaoyang and Fang Mingyuan's expressions were a bit uneasy, as this wasn't favorable to Long Chen. His strongest point was useless here. Long Chen sighed. This is forcing me to show off. In truth, I'm a very low-key person. Why must everyone force me? A flame burst into existence over Long Chen's palm. As soon as that flame appeared, startled cries rang out from the crowd. What flame is that? There's red, white, and also green? 1, 2, 3. There's actually 18 colors. What's going on? People were shocked to see a multicolored flame in Long Chen's hand. Its coloring was extremely complicated. It seems to be a legendary merged flame. He merged various beast flames together to release an unprecedented strength. Are you joking? Each person can only use 1 beast flame. If they tried to use 2, the stronger flame would devour the weaker ones. How could you possibly use this many at once? Retorted someone. Then tell me, what is that flame? Having been criticized, that person was a bit angry. He pointed at Long Chen's flame. The criticizer was immediately at a loss for words. A merged flame was like trying to gather a wolf, insect, tiger, leopard, chicken, duck, cat, and dog together. They would definitely fight and kill each other, and couldn't possibly merge. But other than a merged flame, there was no other way to explain the flame in Long Chen's hand. The tower ancestor smiled and nodded. This little one is really interesting. He's actually able to merge flames. On the other hand, the tower administrator shook his head. Merging flames is extremely difficult. It exhausts too much spiritual strength. He won't be able to keep up with it. The tower ancestor said, "You're wrong. This little fellow isn't using any energy to control these flames. With your spiritual strength, perhaps you can't sense it. In truth, there is a terrifying existence in this little fellow's body that is suppressing those flames. That's why they don't dare make a fuss." The tower administrator was startled. Even the first-rank Earth Dragon Golden Blaze was unable to suppress that many beast flames. Could it be? That's why I said the children these days really are interesting. My trip to the Eastern Wasteland wasn't wasted. Perhaps I'll be able to bring back a true treasure for those old monsters, laughed the tower ancestor. The tower administrator's heart jumped. He naturally knew who those old monsters he mentioned were. Those were figures whose very names could shake the continent. Thinking of that, he sighed. Long San's future accomplishments would perhaps rise to the point that he could only look up to them. But then thinking of Long San's character, he bitterly smiled. If he went to Pill Valley, then the calm they had enjoyed for countless years would be immediately broken. The merged flame Long Chen had summoned shocked everyone. Despite being so far away, they could still sense a terrifying heat from that flame. The power of his merged flame seems to be on the same level as Huo Wufang's Earth Dragon Golden Blaze, exclaimed people. Although there was no way to make a detailed comparison, the powerful fluctuations from both flames were similar. Huo Wufang couldn't help being startled. But then a cold smile crept onto his face. If you gathered 100 sheep, they might have the same strength as a tiger, but in truth, what was the point? Long Chen ignored the exclamations and suspicions. With the suppression of an earth flame, these beast flames had to listen to him. He had achieved his goal. What was the point of 100 sheep? With Long Chen's spiritual strength controlling them, even if the merger couldn't defeat Huo Wufang's flame, the difference was no longer so great. As long as the difference wasn't drastic, Long Chen wouldn't feel any pressure. He began to refine the ingredients into powders. Compared to the earth flame, this is truly trash. Long Chen was speechless. If he could use the earth flame's energy to refine this level of medicinal ingredients, it wouldn't take more than a few breaths' time. But now, to refine one ingredient into powder required an incense stick's worth of time. It was no wonder they had given them 3 days. If they had only given them a day, then everyone could just directly give up. That wouldn't even be enough time to refine the ingredients into powders. Long Chen actually had it better than the others. The others required at least twice the amount of time per ingredient. Furthermore, because their pill flames weren't strong enough, more of the medicinal ingredient's essence was lost during the refining process. The majority of the people here had no hopes of refining a high-grade pill or even a middle-grade pill. As long as they managed to condense the pill, it would be amazing. Even if it was just a trash pill, it would be great. They could already tell that the top 2 spots would definitely be Long Chen's and Huo Wufang's. As for who would be first, that had nothing to do with them. All they hoped to do was refine the pill. The overflowing sea-expanding pill was too difficult for them to refine. Many of them already felt that their souls had begun to reach their limits. For them, refining this pill would rely on luck. After 12 hours, the sky had darkened. Some people were already unable to continue. This was too exhausting on their spiritual strength, and they had to recover their soul energy. In this competition, it was permitted to consume medicinal pills to re-energize the soul. The only goal was to see a person's potential. There were over 10 people who were completely pale now, and they had to take a break, consuming soul-nourishing pills. By the 20th hour, the majority of them had to take a break. Only people on the level of Fang Chang and Chai Liehua were still enduring. When the sun once more rose from the east, when the 24th hour passed, Chai Liehua and Fang Chang were also no longer able to continue. They had to rest their souls. Currently, the only ones still continuing were Long Chen, Huo Wufang, and Duan Tianxiao. But Long Chen and Huo Wufang clearly had plenty of energy to spare, while Duan Tianxiao was a bit pale. Refining these ingredients was extremely taxing, both spiritually and mentally. On the 36th hour, Duan Tianxiao was unwilling, but she was forced to stop for a break. As for the others, they had already recovered and continued refining the ingredients. After refining the last ingredient, Long Chen couldn't help but sigh. This had been too tiring. The most irritating thing to him was that if he could use his earth flame, he could have finished in just 2 hours. But he had been forced to act like a show-off with his useless merged flame. He was jittery and completely vexed inside, but in order to show off, he had to have a faint smile on his face, acting completely natural. Sometimes Long Chen wondered if he was a masochist. The old saying was very true. If you wanted to show off in front of others, you had to work hard when they weren't looking. Long Chen sighed. Why bother? Long Chen had only just finished when Huo Wufang also completed his refinement. He looked over at Long Chen. Seeing that he had finished before him, he let out a cold snort. He sat and consumed a soul-nourishing pill to recover. Although he still had almost half of his spiritual strength, the true refinement was about to start. He had to keep himself in his peak state, as he couldn't allow the slightest error. Due to the initial refining step requiring so much time, only half of the 72 hours remained. At that time, the competitors would only have one shot at refining a furnace of pills. If that failed, then they wouldn't have time for another one. The 3 sets of ingredients only offered them the chance to fail this initial refinement. They only had one chance at the later stage. The only reason why Huo Wufang had gone all out to refine these ingredients was because he had been hoping to beat Long Chen in terms of speed. Unfortunately, Long Chen didn't even give him that chance. He could only calm himself down and prepare himself for the final stretch. Seeing that, Long Chen sneered disdainfully inside. If he had wanted to, he could continue until next month with this refinement. This level of exhaustion was nothing to Long Chen's spiritual strength. If he adjusted himself and decided to refine while also focusing on recovering, then let alone next month, he could continue until the next Pill Emperor competition. Long Chen took out a reclining chair, as well as a parasol to block the sun. He laid down, crossed his legs, and began to fake sleep. The spectators' jaws dropped. Wasn't this showing off a bit too much? He wasn't going to consume any medicine, and he wasn't going to sit in meditation? Instead, he was sleeping? The tower administrator's expression sank. Long San was too arrogant. He was about to say something when the tower ancestor shook his head. Young people need to be lively. Furthermore, he hasn't broken any rules. Let him do as he pleases. When the sun once more rose, Long Chen opened his eyes. He stood up and stretched. Originally, he had just been acting, but as a result, he really had fallen asleep. He had even drooled a bit. Seeing the tower ancestor smiling in amusement, no matter how thick Long Chen's skin was, he couldn't help being embarrassed. He hastily bowed toward him to express his apologies. Putting away the chair and parasol, Long Chen saw that there were only 18 people remaining. Many people had washed out while he had been asleep. That was due to the order in which they had refined their ingredients. They had left the 3 hardest ingredients for last. Most of them had probably failed there. There was no way around it. They naturally left the hardest ingredients for last, as then you would be deeper in your mental refining state. That would increase the odds of successfully refining it. If everyone had started with those 3 ingredients, then perhaps in just 6 hours, most of them would have already failed. At this time, Long Chen saw that everyone was solemnly feeding their medicinal powders into the pill furnaces. They had all realized that this was their only chance of succeeding. After finishing the refinement of the final ingredient, they had all rested for the final part of the refinement. Long Chen also saw Huo Wufang had already long since been waiting for him. It seemed he truly wanted to compete with him until the end. He couldn't help laughing inside. Did Huo Wufang want to compete with him in terms of alchemy? Now Long Chen truly had an urge to take off his shoes and refine with his feet. But that would be a bit too much. It was also an insult to alchemy, and the tower ancestor might directly kick him out. Long Chen's flame burst into existence once more. He began to warm up the furnace. As expected, Huo Wufang immediately got to work once he saw Long Chen start. If he wanted to compete, then he could compete away. Long Chen was too lazy to bother with him. He focused his attention on his flame. After all, this was not his earth flame, and he wasn't used to it. He had to be careful. If he failed because of carelessness, then this act of his would end with him acting like an idiot. He certainly didn't want to do such a thing. This was Long Chen's first time refining the overflowing sea expanding pill. Although the pill god memories did contain this pill, it was best to be careful with his first refinement. Furthermore, getting first place wasn't just for himself. It was to accomplish his promise, to repay Fang Chang and Chai Liehua. Taking first place was extremely important. If he did, the Hua family's prestige would drop a great deal, while the Fang and Chai family's prestige would rise. Then, the one in the predicament would be the Hua family. Although Long Chen was confident, he was still sensible. He continued refining normally. The old fellows present all had sharp eyes, thus, he couldn't expose his true strength. Why are Huo Wufang's actions so practiced? Long Chen's divine sense was stealthily probing Huo Wufang. He saw that Huo Wufang's refinement seemed very practiced. He controlled the flame extremely naturally. The fuck? This is cheating. That bastard's definitely already refined the overflowing sea expanding pill, and not just once. Long Chen cursed inside. The Hua family had definitely cheated. They had to have known what the test this time would be, and they had drilled Hua Wufang in it. It was no wonder he had been so confident. It wasn't just Long Chen who saw this. Even the distant Fang Mingyuan and Chai Gaoyang noticed, and their expressions became ugly. As for Hua Changxing, he just calmly watched. He pretended not to see their furious glares. Sitting at the top platform, the tower ancestor was simply watching. The tower administrator quietly whispered, "Isn't this unfair? Does this world contain anything that's fair?" asked the tower ancestor. "Let me tell you the answer. There was never anything fair in this world. Asking for fairness is the whining of the weak. In the world of the strong, asking for fairness is just a joke. No one listens to the crying of the weak, while the strong never care about fairness. The big fish eats the small fish, while the small fish eats the shrimp. Who will care about the shrimp's cries? The cultivation world is one where the strong feast on the weak. If you're just prey, then don't cry about unfairness. Instead, think of how you can increase your own strength so you can prey on others. When the weak become the strong, they also prey on others, and they will also ignore other people's cries for fairness. But in my eyes, fair and unfair are a cycle, one in constant motion and balance. The circle falls and rises, coming back to the start. So don't bother about these things, as these are the heavenly Daos," said the tower ancestor. Hearing this, the tower administrator's heart shook. He hastily bowed. "Many thanks for your teachings." "What teachings? Let's just calmly watch the game. I also want to know how long San plans on playing," laughed the tower ancestor. 6 hours went by in the blink of an eye. The entire crowd was silent. The only sound was the sizzling of pill flames. Finally, a loud bang drew everyone's attention. Heavens, Hua Wufang is the first to seal his furnace. Sealing the furnace represented an important part of the refinement. Normally, it represented that the refinement was 90% finished and was merely lacking the final step. Long Chen also sealed his furnace. But he was extremely irritated inside. That idiot was cheating. Despite being idiots, the Hua family was actually quite skillful. Their connections were so strong that they had secretly learned the test for the finals. Startled cries rang out once Long Chen sealed his furnace. The two of them were refining at almost the same speed. Hua Wufang circulated his earth dragon golden blaze to its full strength. Golden flames enveloped his pill furnace, causing space to twist. It was truly worthy of being the existence ranked first on the beast flame rankings. The overflowing sea expanding pill's final step required an extremely powerful flame. The stronger the flame, the higher the final quality. This part was extremely important. Long Chen also pushed his merged flame to its peak. Multicolored flames danced over his pill furnace. At the same time, a powerful pressure descended. Heavens, Long San has gone insane. He's already feeding his spiritual strength to his flame. Refining the overflowing sea expanding pill was a battle of attrition. It was extremely exhausting to a person's spiritual strength. Most people would conserve their spiritual strength until the end. That moment was the most taxing to a person's soul energy. To begin feeding extra spiritual strength to his flame right at the beginning, was he not afraid of running out of soul energy in the middle? Even if his spiritual strength was extremely powerful, it couldn't possibly have reached that level, right? Long San has no other choice. His merged flame is actually weaker than the Earth Dragon Golden Blaze, and the power of the flame is extremely crucial to the overflowing sea expanding pill. If Long San wants to defeat Hua Wufang, he has to go all out. But this action of his is still completely crazy, sighed one highly experienced senior alchemist. An ordinary pill emperor wouldn't even be able to endure an hour at the rate Long San was using his spiritual strength. But this final part of the refinement would require at least 12 hours. Did he really think he could keep up with this exhaustion for 12 hours? Furthermore, at the final moment, the temperature of the flame had to constantly change in order to seal the medicinal energy inside the pills. That was the truly exhausting part. According to people's understanding of Long San, Although he liked to show off, his true strength was something to admire. According to reason, he wouldn't show off to the point of being an idiot. But his current action was completely incomprehensible. At this time, the others also sealed their furnaces. However, 2 of them had to leave dejectedly. Due to their nervousness, they had failed during the process of sealing their furnaces. Time passed. Even the spectators were extremely tense. The winner of the Centennial Pill Emperor competition would soon be decided. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. One alchemist suddenly collapsed from his stage. He had exhausted all his soul energy and fallen unconscious. Another alchemist collapsed. They were all people with strong perseverance. They had endured all the way until they had truly run out of strength and fainted. People couldn't help but sigh. These alchemists were all amazing pill emperors, but here, they were still eliminated despite bitterly persevering until the end. The sky once more darkened and then slowly brightened. There were still 2 hours until the time was up. Bang! Suddenly, someone finished their refinement and opened their furnace. Everyone hastily looked, but then they couldn't help sighing. There was no pill inside the furnace. There was only a pile of dregs. Obviously, in the end, that person hadn't had enough soul energy and had been unable to condense the pill. Bang! Another furnace opened. This furnace belonged to Fong Chang. As a result, startled cries rang out. Within a pile of pill dregs, there was actually a medicinal pill. Although there was no pill halo, and the medicinal fragrance was extremely light, it could still barely count as a low-grade pill. That was actually not bad. At the very least, he had condensed the pill. Following Fong Chang, others also began to open their furnaces. As a result, many of them had only created pill dregs. But some succeeded. Chai Liehua had actually refined a middle-grade pill. He was indescribably excited. But that excitement quickly faded. 3 others had also refined middle-grade pills. They would have to use special tools to measure the medicinal energy in the pills to determine which one of them was better. Heavens, it's a high-grade pill. Duan Tianxiao's furnace caused shocked cries. She had actually refined a ringed high-grade pill. Yes. She couldn't help but let out a cheer. But as soon as she did, her expression immediately changed. She had broken the rules of the competition. It's fine. The competition has already reached its end. You can speak, as long as you don't intentionally try to affect other people's refining, said the tower ancestor with an amicable smile. Duan Tianxiao was incomparably grateful that he didn't punish her. Haha, we can speak? Then good, Long San, I've already said that the first place is mine. Laughed Hua Wufang. Did you not take your medicine, or did you take too much? Or do you just like to spout nonsense? I really want to know just where your confidence comes from, said Long Chen indifferently. His divine sense had been constantly paying attention to Hua Wufang. Although his pill flame blocked Long Chen's divine sense so that he couldn't see the situation inside the furnace, Long Chen could tell from the fluctuations that at best, the final pill would only have 3 rings. That would be the absolute limit. Long Chen turned his nose up in disdain toward a 3-ring pill. Although he hadn't reached the final step, he was confident his pill would have at least 5 rings, and perhaps even 6. So Hua Wufang's crazy laughter made him extremely curious. Long San, I admit that my spiritual strength is weaker than yours. In terms of alchemy skill, you also might be a level higher than me. Even in terms of pill flame, you can rely on your spiritual strength to just barely stand on the same level as me. In that kind of situation, it really might be difficult for us to say who would win. But you're looking down on me too much. I will show you all a divine alchemy art that you've never seen before. 9 Revolution Blood Soul Upgrade Art. Following Hua Wufang's shout, people were startled to see his eyes turn scarlet. His forehead split open, and blood slowly trickled out. That line of blood seemed to possess its own life. It crawled down according to a set pattern, creating a strange mark. What? He's actually willing to do this? Long Chen was startled. He hadn't expected Hua Wufang to use this move. This 9 Revolution Blood Soul Upgrade art was something that came at a steep price. It was something that exhausted a person's lifespan and essence blood in order to forcibly increase the quality of a pill. This was something not transmitted in the outside world. The main reason was that this technique was not advocated by alchemists. Using this technique posed a great deal of harm to a person's soul, and that damage was permanent. There was no way to heal it. How vicious! Fang Mingyuan and Chai Gaoyang's hearts pounded. Looking at Huo Changxing, they sighed emotionally. This kind of secret art was something they didn't know how to use, but it was something they had heard of. They hadn't expected the Huo family to be so vicious. This was basically forfeiting Huo Wufang's life. Huo Wufang, once you use the 9 Revolution Blood Soul upgrade art, you'll also be crippled. Your spiritual strength will never advance again, and you'll never be able to reach the sea expansion realm, said Long Chen. Ah, Long San, you're just a mountain bumpkin. I'll not only take the first place, but I also won't take any damage, sneered Huo Wufang. As the blood mark on his forehead brightened, people could sense a strange energy surging within his furnace. His pill furnace was trembling incessantly. Long Chen's expression finally changed because he sensed a pill in Huo Wufang's furnace rapidly absorbing energy. He had truly underestimated Huo Wufang. He had never expected him to have this move, and he also sensed that when he used the Blood Soul upgrade art, the spiritual strength he was using was not his own. It was an extremely odd feeling. Could it be? Boom. The golden flames scattered, revealing Huo Wufang's arrogant smile. He opened the furnace, displaying a medicinal pill shining with light. Even in the daylight, it was still so dazzling. Heavens, a 9-ring pill! Startled cries rang out. It was actually the peak of high-grade pills. But Long Chen wasn't looking at the pill. Instead, he was looking at Huo Wufang. He suddenly said, "It's no wonder you dare to use this move. The blood was yours, but the soul energy was someone else's. How vicious!" Long Chen's words startled everyone. If his words were true, then wouldn't that mean Huo Wufang's body contained 2 souls, and one of them had been the sacrifice? Long San, it doesn't matter what you say. I didn't break any rules. Now you should believe that the first place is mine, right? Ha! Laughed Huo Wufang. Chai Liehua and Fang Chang couldn't help but sigh. They already had no further hopes for Long Chen to win. Originally, it would have been difficult to say which one of them would win. But now, the ending was set in stone. Tower Ancestor, what exactly are we using to determine the rankings? Asked Long Chen. The medicinal pills effect, answered the Tower Ancestor. Long Chen suddenly smiled. Hee, many thanks, Tower Ancestor. Then I still have a chance. A chance? Keep dreaming. You've already begun to condense the pill, and its effect is essentially set. What can you possibly bring out to defeat me? Sneered Huo Wufang. He didn't believe Long Chen would use the same move as him. Even if he knew how to use it, he wouldn't dare to mutilate himself like that. If he did, then even if he took first place, Pill Valley wouldn't take in someone who would never advance again. Suddenly, cracking sounds came from Long Chen's furnace. Those sounds were very light, but in the silent arena, everyone heard it clearly. What? He destroyed the pills that had just been about to form? Everyone was shocked. What was Long San doing? Had he completely given up and no longer even wanted second place? The tower administrator's pupils shrunk. Is he actually? The Tower Ancestor nodded in praise. It really is nice to be young. You dare to do anything you want, without being so overcautious about the consequences. Boom. Space trembled intensely and the ground also shivered. A huge whirlpool dozens of miles wide formed in the sky, completely covering the arena. How is this possible? Looking at that huge whirlpool, everyone's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. How could someone possess such terrifying soul energy here? Even the always calm Tower Ancestor was finally moved. That huge whirlpool was something condensed from Long Chen's soul energy. Its scope was truly too shocking. An ordinary pill emperor would at most be able to condense some fluctuations that stretched out a few meters. Even Huo Wufang, once he had used the 9 Revolution Blood Soul upgrade art, had only had fluctuations that had spread 300 meters. But Long Chen's spiritual strength was covering a range of dozens of miles. Boom. Suddenly, a huge pillar of flame soared out from Long Chen. The flame pillar was 30 meters thick and soared straight into the clouds. A terrifying pressure spread. The competitors around him were unable to bear the heat and had to retreat. It was fortunate that they had sent their completed pills up to the judges already. This was to prevent cheating. Otherwise, it really would be easy to cheat in this chaotic scene. Heavens, is he really human? People's jaws could not drop any lower. This scene was too shocking. Only the tower ancestor didn't reveal any expression at the immense flame pillar. Instead, his originally turbid eyes began to glow, looking as if they could see through space. As expected. He smiled, and then his eyes returned to their normal state. Long Chen had summoned this flame pillar only to mask his true actions. Because Huo Wufang had sacrificed a soul in order to use the 9 Revolution Blood Soul upgrade art, his calculations had gone astray. Now, if he wanted to defeat Huo Wufang, he had to rely on the earth flame. But he couldn't expose the earth flame, so he had to hide it within this pillar of flames. Long Chen had crushed the pills that had just been about to form, turning them to powder. Then he began a crazy refinement with the earth flame. Time's almost up. Boom. Heaven and earth trembled. The flame pillar scattered, revealing Long Chen. At this moment, he was clearly a bit exhausted. One hand was pressed tightly onto his pill furnace. Was it a failure? Everyone saw that Long Chen's furnace was covered in spiderweb cracks. It was clear that his furnace had been just a bit away from exploding. During the final moments of refinement, the furnace had to be tightly sealed. Otherwise, if the energy inside leaked, the pills inside would essentially become trash. Time is up. When the final grain of sand fell, the person in charge of the time shouted, "Ah, Long San, you made such a ruckus, but in the end wasn't it just a monkey show?" laughed Huo Wufang. Long Chen's furnace suddenly began to fall apart. Piece by piece, it fell to the ground. "Ah, Long San, first places, what?" Huo Wufang's smile suddenly stopped as if his throat was being clutched. He was filled with shock. Long Chen's shattering pill furnace revealed a certain thing. That was a pill with no rings, only a faint halo. According to pill grades, it could only count as a regular high-grade pill. However, this pill caused everyone but the tower ancestor to be shocked. Fang Chang and Chai Liehua were filled with crazy delight. Giant pill? The pill halo was very simple, but the pill itself was the size of a baby's fist. This was an extremely rare giant pill. Giant pills were something alchemists might never refine even in their entire lives. Refining a giant pill was dozens of times more exhausting on the soul than ordinary pills, and the chances of failure were over 100 times greater. That was why giant pills were things many people had heard of, but most people had never seen. Giant pills had condensed all the essence of 9 pills into one. But the giant pill's energy would be over 10 times greater than the original 9 pills combined. As for the giant pill in Long Chen's hand, it had even reached the high grade. Its medicinal effect would be equivalent to at least 2 9-ring pills. "Bastard, this is impossible. Long San, you definitely cheated," roared Huo Wufang. His expression was twisted with fury as he charged straight at Long Chen. Seeing Huo Wufang rushing over, Long Chen immediately rolled up his sleeve and sent out a vicious slap. But what Long Chen didn't expect was that his slap would miss. Before Huo Wufang could get close, he was sent flying back by a powerful force. "It is forbidden to fight within the arena," shouted the tower ancestor, his expression dark. Only now did Huo Wufang wake up from his fury. With a terrified expression, he hastily bowed. "Tower ancestor, please punish me." Disciple was impetuous. Only now did Huo Wufang become aware again that this was the Pill Emperor competition. The tower ancestor represented Pill Valley. This was not somewhere where his Hua family could control everything. "Because it's your first offense, I will spare you this once. Bring up everyone's pills." The tower ancestor's last sentence was toward those experts in charge of maintaining order. Someone immediately came up and carefully took out Long Chen's pill. "What, they're not even punishing him? At the very least, they should let me slap him 100 times." Long Chen was a bit displeased. Just now, hadn't Huo Wufang maliciously attacked him? This tower ancestor was truly too nice. But there was nothing Long Chen could do about that. He could only walk over to stand with Fong Chong and the others. Long San, nice job. You really won us face. Chai Liehua gave him a thumbs up. Although they were the future leaders of their families, it was their first time personally seeing a giant pill being refined in front of them. There was no way around that. Perhaps in this world, only Long Chen possessed the qualifications to refine a giant pill. Even if 100 people gathered up their spiritual strength, they wouldn't be able to refine a giant pill. At this time, all the completed pills were being passed along to the old alchemy elders. One reason was for them to determine the pill's quality, while the other reason was to see if anyone had cheated. But if anyone dared to cheat here, then they really had to have been looking to die. There was no one who dared to act like that. These old fellows had refined more pills than they had ever even seen. The results are in. I'll now announce the top 5. 5th place is Zhao Guangwei, announced the tower ancestor as he read off a piece of paper. One man immediately became so excited that he cried tears of joy. By getting in the top 5, he had earned the right to join Pill Valley, becoming a formal Pill Valley disciple. That was something that brought honor to his ancestors. That person was part of the Hua family's camp. He had been pulled in by Huo Wufang. That made Fong Chong and the others a bit irritated. 4th place, Qi Dejiang. This was another person from the Hua family's side. That made Fong Chong and Chai Liehua's heart sink. They looked at each other helplessly. Now, only the top 3 remained. The results were obvious. They definitely hadn't made it. 3rd place, Duan Tianxiao. Duan Tianxiao cried tears of excitement. Now, 3 of the top 5 had come from the Hua family's side. 2nd place is, everyone's hearts tightened, especially the people from the Hua, Fong, and Chai families. They all stopped breathing. This was something that related to the future of their families. Huo Wufang. These words came out of the tower ancestor's mouth. Huo Wufang collapsed, sitting on the ground. He was filled with unwillingness and hatred. 1st place. Fong Chong and Chai Liehua began to throttle Long Chen's neck, feeling so excited that they might explode. They didn't know just what to do to release their emotions. 1st place is Long San. Although there had been no suspense, hearing these words caused a heaven-shaking roar from the Fong and Chai family's experts. Everyone but the top 5 can leave now. Following the tower administrator's orders, the curtain closed on the Pill Emperor competition. Long Chen and the others were brought into the 7 treasure jewel tower. The tower ancestor looked at them. Here are the rewards. The tower administrator personally handed each of them a Pill Valley badge. Long Chen saw that his name was carved onto it, Long San. The badge felt extremely heavy in his hand, and there was also a powerful aura that came from it. This was most likely something that could not be imitated. Long Chen, Huo Wufang, and Duan Tianxiao were also given a spatial ring. Long Chen didn't even look at it before putting it away. As for Duan Tianxiao, when she examined what was inside, her whole body trembled. She had an expression of disbelief. Huo Wufang also looked inside his spatial ring and became filled with delight. But then he became filled with endless fury. He had obviously thought of what kind of treasures had to be in Long San's ring. Long San, you don't want to know what your reward is? The tower ancestor smiled. This little one comes from a small mountain village. It would be a shame if I was so shocked upon seeing it that I peed myself. That would be too embarrassing. I'll wait until no one is watching to look inside, laughed Long Chen. Duan Tianxiao looked at Long San curiously. She really was unable to understand this fellow. He was actually able to resist such a strong enticement. She was definitely unable to do the same. That's fine. I was looking forward to your expression of shock, but it seems there won't be a chance now. Getting to business, since you've all obtained a Pill Valley Disciple badge, you can all join Pill Valley. I will be returning to the Pill Valley later today, so you have to choose whether you want to come with me, or wait and think of another way of getting there on your own, said the tower ancestor. Disciple wishes to leave immediately. Duan Tianxiao was the first to speak. This caused Huo Wufang's expression to become slightly ugly. Having obtained the third place, Duan Tianxiao was actually planning on cutting ties with his Hua family. I also wish to leave with Tower Ancestor. The other two hastily followed Duan Tianxiao's lead. What about you, Long San? Asked the Tower Ancestor. Me? I still have some things to handle. You also know, I only just married my wife. As newlyweds, I want to stay for 1 or 2 months so we can get to know each other better. Is it all right for me to leave later? Asked Long Chen. Yes. You have Pill Valley's badge. You can use it any time within the next 10 years. But let me warn you, Pill Valley is located in the Central Plains, and it is very far. You'll have to go through dozens of transportation formations, and you'll also need to pass through the chaotic sea. It's extremely dangerous. It'll be much more convenient for you to leave with me, said the Tower Ancestor. Disciple understands. But Disciple still has to do a few things before leaving. Please forgive me, apologized Long Chen. In truth, he really was enticed. If he went to Pill Valley, wouldn't he be able to get any medicinal ingredients he wanted? But what about the Dragon Blood Legion? What about Tang Wen'er and Meng Qi? He couldn't just think about himself. Alright, then what about you, Huo Wufeng? Asked the Tower Ancestor. Seeing that Long Chen wasn't immediately leaving, Huo Wufeng's eyes brightened and he hastily said, Disciple also has some secular matters to handle first. Please forgive me. The Tower Ancestor smiled slightly, but that smile contained a profound meaning. Alright, up to you. You can leave now. Remember, you have to get to Pill Valley within 10 years, or your badges will become invalid. Long Chen and Huo Wufeng left the 7 Treasure Jewel Tower together. Huo Wufeng suddenly sneered, Long San, just wait. Idiot, who has time to wait for you? Long Chen was too lazy to bother with him. He saw Feng Chang, Chai Liehua, as well as Hua Biluo waiting for him. Tossing out a final insult, he rushed over there. Long San, congratulations on getting first place. Chai Liehua was the first to extend his arms and go toward Long Chen, wanting to give him a fierce hug. Long Chen also laughed and spread his arms. But he dodged Chai Liehua and actually hugged the laughing Hua Biluo. Hua Biluo immediately blushed. Fuck, Long San, you little brat, raged Chai Liehua. The 4 of them laughed and returned to the Fong Manor. They had only just entered when Long Chen was called over to Fong Mingyuan. Well done, Long Chen. Within a private room, Chai Gaoyang praised Long Chen. Long Chen's display had truly been too shocking today. Are there any movements from the Hua family? Asked Long Chen. What movements could they make? As soon as they announced that you took first place, over half of the Hua family's guests immediately left. The era of their Hua family being number 1 has passed, and it will never return. Some people have already seen some clues and begun to drift apart from the Hua family, taking the attitude of spectators. In just this short time, the Hua family has become much lonelier. There are even some small powers that have already joined sides with my Fong family. Those opportunists are useless, but even some of the loyal dogs of the Hua family have begun to sway. That's the real prize. Fong Mingyuan smiled. Do you think the Hua family will be driven to a desperate action? Asked Long Chen. Most definitely. Their Hua family won't just wait for their death. But now, they won't have much manpower for anything. Don't worry, our 2 families aren't weak, or how could we have defended against the Hua family? It's just that we don't easily reveal our fangs, consoled Chai Gaoyang. Then I'm relieved. I'm going to rest and drink with the other 2 junior masters. Long Chen smiled. Go. You should celebrate. Fong Mingyuan smiled. But when Long Chen left, his smile disappeared. Are we really going to do this? Chai Gaoyang said, Of course. The Hua family's destruction is set in stone now. Furthermore, we'll pull them up by their roots. I was talking about, Fong Mingyuan felt a bit distressed. Don't worry. As long as we keep the information airtight, who will know? Those who want to accomplish big things can't be so overcautious, said Chai Gaoyang. After a long moment, Fong Mingyuan finally sighed. Fine. Since you're so in favor of this, I'll listen to you. It's time to be ruthless. Boom. Within a private room, despite doing his absolute best, Long Chen was still unable to control the terrifying energy soaring out of him. The walls of the room were now covered in cracks. With just a bit more power, the entire room would collapse. All I did was condense the embryonic state, and I only used an ordinary middle-grade palace enlightenment pill, but it already caused such a ruckus. As expected, each star of the 9-star Hegemon body art is more terrifying than the last. Long Chen was extremely shocked. He had only just refined his first furnace of Enlightenment Palace pills after celebrating with Fong Chang and Chai Liehua. Because it was his first time refining it, he had actually ended up refining one middle-grade pill. Refining such a low-grade pill was extremely rare for Long Chen. But low-grade pills had their own benefits sometimes. Long Chen had consumed it to find a path to the position of the Enlightenment Palace star. Now he found that the 9-star Hegemon body art's first 4 stars were located at the hands and feet. The Enlightenment Palace star was located at the center of the left hand. Just now, Long Chen had done his best, but the slightest bit of his energy had leaked out, almost collapsing the room he was in. Long Chen was ecstatic. The Enlightenment Palace star was truly terrifying. If it had this much power even before the embryonic form was completely condensed, just how strong would it be once it was fully condensed? Long Chen quickly controlled the medicinal energy, sending it into his left hand. At the same time, he circulated the 9-star Hegemon body art. He felt his hand heat up, and a cyclone slowly formed in his hand. This is the feeling. This feeling was extremely familiar. Because he couldn't cause such a huge ruckus, he could only allow the medicinal energy to enter slowly. Despite being incredibly careful, the cyclone caused space to shudder. The bricks on the ceiling began to fall. The fallen bricks revealed a bare steel wall. This room was not just sealed off from the rest of the world, but it was also extremely sturdy. These steel walls were almost 30 meters thick. The actual room only had an area of 300 square meters. In other words, the walls were even thicker than the room was wide. Even if you were to scream and shout in here, the outside world wouldn't be able to hear anything. But intense trembling would definitely be sensed. So Long Chen had to control his energy. The cyclone in his hand slowly grew as he sent the medicinal energy there. When the first furnace of pills was all completely consumed, Long Chen found that the cyclone had only grown ever so slightly. He sighed. For the previous life Fate Star, one furnace of pills had essentially maxed out the cyclone. Only at that point would a small dot form at the heart of the cyclone. That dot was the star's core. That was the true start of the star condensation. The next steps were to fully condense the star and then undergo the 9-star transformations. Only then would it reach its perfect state. He once more took out a furnace of pills. These pills hadn't been refined by him, but by Huolong. Huolong was extremely smart. As long as Long Chen refined a pill once, it would remember the entire process and be able to refine it as well. It knew exactly when to increase the flame, weaken the flame, when to pull back the flame, and when to fully release the flame. However, Huolong's pills weren't as high quality as Long Chen's personally refined pills. After all, it didn't possess Long Chen's spiritual strength, and so it couldn't pour in soul energy into the pill to increase the pill's spirituality. But Huolong's skill was extremely steady. Each time, it would manage to refine 9 pills, each with 1 ring. It made no mistakes. Huolong was truly an outstanding assistant to Long Chen. It was simply regretful that Huolong didn't possess its own spiritual strength, or it would be able to refine even higher grade pills. But this still saved Long Chen a great deal of time. He directly consumed over 100 pills. Even Huolong's fast refining speed couldn't keep up with Long Chen's rapid consumption. Really? It only grew by this much? Long Chen was a bit shocked. Over 100 pills had entered his stomach, but that cyclone was still only the size of a bean. The only comfort was that it was at least many times larger than it had been at first. According to his experience, the cyclone would only reach saturation when it reached 3 feet in size. Only then would it give birth to the core of the star. Damn it, the Enlightenment Palace star's consumption is too terrifying. Just condensing the cyclone will probably require tens of thousands of Enlightenment Palace pills. Oh? Long Chen suddenly noticed a layer of translucent material on his arm. He lightly pulled and found that a whole layer of his skin came off. "I'm shedding." Long Chen was dumbfounded. He found that his body had started to shed its skin. He hastily looked inside himself, and his heart shook. He saw that each one of his cells was growing and giving birth to new cells. The old cells were being expelled outside his body. His entire body was undergoing a transformation. Long Chen was bewildered. Was this what it meant to shed one's mortal body? What Long Chen seemed to be shedding looked similar to skin, but in reality, it was his old cells. The skin was just the carrier of the discharge. "I feel like my whole body is full of energy." Long Chen calmly watched as new cells formed. His old cells were gradually replaced. Feeling his whole body brimming with energy, he had an urge to punch the wall just to release it. An hour later, Long Chen finally stopped shedding. He felt refreshed and in high spirits. He suddenly thought of something and hastily crushed a medicinal pill, wiping its powder over his face. He found that after his shedding, he had returned to his original appearance. He had to fix his face again. Just after fixing that, a red button on the wall began to repeatedly blink. It was the alarm. This was an alarm connected to every training room in the Fong family. It meant something big was happening outside. Long Chen hastily ran out. As soon as he came out, he saw that the entire Fong family was in a panic. Countless black-robed men had snuck their way into the Fong family under the cover of the night. They killed anyone they saw. Right in front of him, a bone-forging expert from the Fong family was cut down. His head rolled to Long Chen's feet. The killer was just about to attack Long Chen when he saw who he was. His pupils shrank and he hastily turned to flee. But Long Chen didn't give him any chance. A slap fell on his face. Long Chen's goal had been to slap him unconscious and then undergo a soul search to see where these people had come from. But his slap had been too powerful. This person's head exploded like a watermelon. Long Chen was stunned to see that he had slapped him dead. "My strength has risen too much. I'm unable to control my power perfectly for now." Long Chen rushed directly out of his small courtyard. When Long Chen's divine sense swept through the Fong family, he saw there were thousands of experts attacking. Each one of them was wearing black robes and a veil over their faces. Wherever they went, blood followed as they slaughtered the Fong family's people. Screams of pain and panic resounded. Where are the Fong and Chai family's experts? Long Chen didn't understand, but now wasn't the time to think so much. He found that his courtyard had already been surrounded, and dozens of people were currently attacking Hua Biluo. Hua Biluo was surrounded by flying petals, and her sword was streaked with blood as she desperately fought. These people were all Xiantian experts, and Hua Biluo had not revealed the fact that she was a celestial. That was something Long Chen had told her to do. Being surrounded by this many people, Hua Biluo was naturally struggling. Her sword shone with a brilliant light as she only defended. She was doing her best to stall. Suddenly, a huge flame arrow pierced through her enemies and exploded. Dozens of Xiantian experts were instantly incinerated, relieving Hua Biluo of her desperate situation. Seeing that Long Chen had arrived, Hua Biluo sighed with relief. The survivors all scattered upon seeing Long Chen. "Ha, oh Long San, we've been waiting a long time." A cold shout rang out and a figure appeared. Although he also wore a veil over his face, his eyes completely revealed his identity. One eye was black, while the other was white. It was too obvious. It also made the overall situation apparent. These people had been sent by the Hua family. The Hua family had actually gone all out before the Fong and Chai families could attack them. Following the first corrupt celestial, many more celestials also arrived. They had obviously been lying in wait just for this. "Run!" Long Chen suddenly shouted and pulled away Hua Biluo. Using the netherworld ghost steps, he was just like a phantom as he rushed away. "Where do you think you're going?" Long Chen had only just begun to run when his heart tightened. Pulling Hua Biluo, he dodged to the side. Boom! A black light shot past Long Chen. This was the same move that had killed the celestial back then. This black light was extremely strange, and anyone touched by it would die. After dodging, Long Chen continued fleeing. He was incomparably quick, appearing many miles away in an instant. "Chase, we have to kill Long San." The corrupt celestial shouted and shot after Long Chen. The other celestials also followed. As soon as the celestials left, several powerful auras rose within the Fong family. Sea expansion experts had taken action. As Long Chen rushed away, he kept feeling like something was wrong. But as for what exactly, he couldn't pinpoint it. He just felt like this matter was odd. This was Pilyang City. There were many commoners living here. If there really was a huge battle here, it would definitely implicate countless innocents. Although he was not a friend to these people, Long Chen was unable to completely ignore the value of a person's life. He was intentionally dragging these experts into the wilderness before fighting. "You bastard Long San. You actually tricked me. You're clearly using the netherworld ghost steps," roared the corrupt celestial who had previously questioned Long Chen. That was because there were no flames under Long Chen's feet today. He immediately saw through some clues. Long Chen rushed out of the city in one go. When he was far away enough, he said to Hua Biluo, "You should run now." "What?" Hua Biluo was startled. "A large battle will erupt in a bit. This battle isn't suitable for you. To put it frankly, you'll only hold me back if you stay here. I'll stall them and you run as far away as possible. Don't say anything about wanting to stay with me even unto death. That kind of sappy line is too irritating. Once you run, hide yourself. Once I handle this matter, I will return to my identity as Long Chen. At that time, you can openly return to Biluo Mountain and say that after undergoing a life and death battle, you finally awakened as a celestial. At that time, you'll have my favor as well as a relationship with the Fong family. Then you can openly fight with Hua Jinrong for the position of the future family head." After saying that, Long Chen threw Hua Biluo into the distance. But while he threw Hua Biluo forward, he borrowed that force to fly back. The closest one behind him was the corrupt celestial who was also using the netherworld ghost steps. His speed was the greatest, and he had thrown off all the others. For Long Chen to suddenly shoot backward, he hadn't even understood what was happening when Long Chen's fist ruthlessly smashed into his body. Blood filled the air as if two bloody stars had collided. That corrupt celestial directly exploded from the impact. The benefit of being faster was not just that you could chase faster, but also that you could reincarnate faster. Now he would definitely get a head start on the others. Die! Suddenly, a black light shot straight at Long Chen. Long Chen snorted and shot a blazing flame spear at the black light. But what surprised him was that the black light wasn't affected at all. It went straight through the flame spear without weakening. At this close distance, Long Chen felt an incredibly resentful will coming from the black light. It's actually a spiritual attack. Long Chen immediately understood why his flame spear had been useless. This attack was fundamentally not solid. The black-white-eyed celestial had an enchanted item called the Nine Soul Locking Mirror. This attack had come from it. This mirror had a formation carved into it that would absorb dead people's spiritual strength. Then, through another formation, that spiritual strength became an extremely sinister spiritual poison, becoming a special spiritual attack. This kind of spiritual poison was extremely terrifying. Anyone whose soul was weak would instantly die, their soul dissipating. Even people with strong souls would only be able to last for an incense stick's worth of time. That was also why that righteous celestial had been instantly killed. A heretical skill is all it is. Long Chen sneered and he slammed his palm into the black light. Seeing that Long Chen dared to touch the black light, the corrupt celestial sneered with ridicule. That black light was something even he didn't dare to touch. Bang! What? He was appalled to see that the black light was directly blown apart by Long Chen. Then seeing thin thunderbolts surging over Long Chen's palm, his expression immediately changed. "You can control Thunder Force?" Long Chen sneered and didn't reply. He shot forward at him, the Thunder Force on his hand growing brighter. Evil Spirit Shield. Long Chen was too fast, and he didn't give him any time to dodge. The Celestial didn't even have time to summon his cry of the heavenly Daos. Forming a hand seal, a black shield appeared in front of him. That shield was something he had formed from the energy of evil spirits. It wasn't just extremely strong defensively, it was also very tough and flexible. It could be used to fight for a long time. But what stunned him was that this evil spirit shield that he was completely confident in was as weak as glass in front of Long Chen's fist. Bang! Long Chen's fist smashed through the shield and landed on the Celestial's chest. The sound of bones breaking rang out, and he vomited blood as he shot back. Long Chen was just about to chase and take that person's life when another Celestial shot forward, slashing his sword at Long Chen. This Celestial was much smarter, and he had already summoned his cry of the heavenly Daos. His attack caused space to tremble. He was clearly extremely powerful. But a thunder-force-covered hand tightly caught the sword. His body went numb, and he had a bad feeling. He was just about to retreat when Long Chen's other fist smashed onto his body. Blood mist erupted. Long Chen's strength simply wasn't something this person's physical body could endure. Even having summoned the cry of the heavenly Daos, the Celestial's body still blew up. Although the Enlightenment Palace star was still in the cyclone condensing period, Long Chen's current strength had already risen to a point where it terrified himself. It had been a long time since he had had such a refreshing battle. He didn't need any weapons, nor did he need any techniques. With just his bare fists, he dominated these Celestials. His energy surged out of him endlessly. The Celestials were all horrified by his strength. At this time, the black white-eyed Celestial finally had a breather and ordered, "Everyone, work together. Don't let him take us on one by one." The remaining 13 Celestials all surrounded and attacked Long Chen. Long Chen was submerged within the domain of their manifestations. Being suppressed by these many heavenly Tao manifestations, he felt his strength falling. Long Chen activated the Nirvana scripture, and endless flames appeared around him. The Nirvana scripture caused endless flame runes to appear around him, and a beautiful chanting resounded throughout the air. The manifestations of the cry of the heavenly Daos were no longer able to suppress him. Long Chen felt the pressure lighten a great deal, and his fists danced as he fought a crazy battle with them. Explosions rocked the sky. Long Chen's fists were like heavy mountains crashing onto their weapons. Each attack caused a rumbling explosive sound. Long Chen had trained in the lightning rushing hand. That was originally just a heaven-class battle skill. It was no magical art. But with the power of his Tribulation Thunder Force, he was still able to face off against their weapons barehanded. As Long Chen's fists danced, he seemed like a god of war, appearing incomparably valiant. Even surrounded by 13 Celestials, he wasn't at a disadvantage. Long Chen no longer had to care about first-rank Celestials. He just had to be careful about any strange enchanted weapons they had, for example, that strange mirror. But that mirror did not have limitless energy. Once its energy was used up, it was just trash. True enchanted weapons were not things these ordinary Celestials could use. A Celestial's most powerful point was their cry of the heavenly Daos, which could reduce their enemy's strength while increasing their own. But to use an enchanted weapon required an ocean's worth of spiritual yuan. Most people's stanchions, also known as their chi seas, all contained a similar amount of energy at each cultivation realm. Only when a person entered sea expansion would their chi si grow dozens of times larger, sometimes even over 100 times larger. Only once a person possessed that kind of enormous energy could they truly use an enchanted weapon. This was also why Meridian Opening Celestials could dominate Xiantian experts, but Xiantian Celestials were unable to do the same to the Sea Expansion experts. It was because the Sea Expansion experts possessed enough energy to bury the Celestial. A Xiantian Celestial's energy could be likened to a huge tree, while a Sea Expansion expert's energy was grass. When there was too much grass, it could still easily crush a tree. So although some of these people carried enchanted weapons, they were at best quasi-enchanted items. They were merely used to shock and intimidate others. As Long Chen fought, he was familiarizing himself with his new strength as well as trying to figure out his opponent's relationship. There were 11 people here from the corrupt path. That was something easy to tell from their auras, weapons, and techniques. The remaining 2 were from the righteous path. He hadn't expected that the idiots from the corrupt path actually didn't know how to adjust themselves to the circumstances. They had been duped by the Hua family. It was no wonder the corrupt path never worked together with the righteous path. If they did, then this world would probably be united by the righteous path in just a few years. They really had no idea how to scheme. But thinking about it, Long Chen thought it made sense. The corrupt path rarely had dealings with other people. If the Fang family ended up in control of the pill tower, then all their hard work currying favor with the Hua family would be ruined. At that time, they would have to create a new relationship with the Fang family. That was extremely irritating to them, and they would rather support the Hua family. Then it would be simpler. Bang. Not good. Suddenly, one of the Celestials made a careless mistake, and Long Chen caught his saber with his hand. The other Celestials hastily attacked Long Chen with their full strength, wanting to save that person. Regretfully, Long Chen didn't give them that chance. Holding the blade, just like that, he pushed, slamming the hilt toward its owner. That person tried to abandon his saber and flee, but the hilt still struck him in the stomach. A terrifying force directly blew apart his body. He didn't even have a chance to recover. Borrowing this momentum, Long Chen charged into their midst. One Celestial's weapon was directly smashed apart by Long Chen's fist. That weapon wasn't an enchanted weapon, making it much weaker than the others. This was one of the moments where Long Chen could show off his brute strength. Following the destruction of his weapon, he shot back, vomiting blood. If another Celestial hadn't slashed a sword at Long Chen's back, he would have already died. Long Chen dodged the sword and then suddenly formed 3 extremely complicated hand seals. A 1-foot sphere appeared in his hand. As soon as that sphere appeared, the Celestials' expressions changed. That sphere was composed of over 10 differently colored flames. Those flames were raging against each other, and the pressure they emitted caused them to feel a chill. Blaze explosion. Long Chen simply tossed the flame sphere. Boom. Endless flames exploded, instantly devouring all of them. These Celestials were horrified, never having expected Long Chen to have such a terrifying flame magical art. The Celestials resisted with their full strength, but the flame sphere contained all the beast flame energy Long Chen had. He hadn't held back at all because he had the earth flame to protect himself. Thus, he could practically ignore these flames. But while Long Chen had an earth flame to protect himself, the others didn't. These people were too close. Some didn't even have time to raise defenses before being incinerated into nothing. Long Chen hadn't expected the blaze explosion skill to have so much power when used in conjunction with the Nirvana scripture. It seemed the Nirvana scripture was much stronger than he had expected. The Celestials who managed to raise their defenses bitterly endured for a moment. But the terrifying heat still turned them into black masses of ash. A cold light shot through them, directly severing any chances of those ashes coming back to life. Come out. After watching for so long, are you planning on passing the entire night here? Long Chen said suddenly. Clapping sounds rang out in the night sky, and Huo Wufang walked out with an admiring expression. Long San, you really surprise me. Long Chen wasn't at all surprised to see Huo Wufang. He smiled. Perhaps I'll make you even more surprised. I don't understand, why would you intentionally have me kill them? Long Chen truly didn't understand. He had sensed that someone was watching him during this battle. But he didn't know how this was beneficial to Huo Wufang. That's because my Hua family wants to stabilize our foundation. Once these Celestials die, the powers they belong to will have to completely rely on my Hua family to survive. Once this matter is over, my Hua family will greatly support those powers, helping them to rapidly rise. We'll turn them into my family's most loyal dogs. This will show those opportunists that sway whichever way the wind blows just how stupid they were. My Hua family will help these sects by giving them the finest medicinal pills, allowing them to give birth to even more Celestials. This is also a reflection of strength. Even if a group of people dies, as long as you have resources, you can raise a new batch. But loyalty is much more difficult to obtain. We'll use this opportunity to raise our most loyal subordinates. Now you should understand, sneered Huo Wufang. This logic really is something only you idiots would think of. And only those idiots from the corrupt path would accompany you with that. You really are a group of marvels with marvelous logic. But I don't have any interest in this logic. I just want to know, what's your goal here? Long Chen shook his head. To kill you. Huo Wufang smiled. Oh. Do you know? Last time when you took away Hua Biluo, I already wanted to kill you. But at that time, my body was very uncomfortable. What? Were you menstruating? Huo Wufang's expression darkened. Long San, your mouth really is detestable. In a bit, I'll directly tear that mouth into pieces. Last time, the reason I didn't fight with you was because I hadn't completely adapted to my new bones. But I finally completed that process today. So, I'll be returning the humiliation you've given me 100 times to you. I see. So that was the case. It seems you're very confident in your new bones, said Long Chen. Haha. Huo Wufang suddenly raised his head and laughed madly. Did you know? For these bones, my Hua family spent over half of the savings we built up over thousands of years. Now that this matter has reached this point, there's no need for me to conceal anything anymore. I'll tell you the truth. These bones of mine were from a rank 2 celestial. A rank 2 celestial? Now Long Chen was a bit surprised. Correct. This skeleton is something my Hua family spent a huge price to buy from the Central Plains corrupt path. The original owner was a powerful righteous celestial, and he had even been a terrifying body cultivator. Most importantly, the corrupt path sealed that celestial's heavenly Tao runes into his skeleton. And so, boom, a powerful pressure erupted from Huo Wufang's body. That terrifying force surged out in waves, spreading in every direction. At the same time, endless heavenly Tao runes appeared behind Huo Wufang, dashing in the sky. Long Chen noticed something different about them. For ordinary celestials, they only had one kind of heavenly Tao rune. But Huo Wufang had two kinds of heavenly Tao runes that interweaved behind him. As those two kinds of heavenly Tao runes appeared, the ground beneath Huo Wufang's feet began to crack. Long Chen was actually forced back dozens of meters by this powerful aura. This is a rank 2 celestial? He has two types of runes interweaving to complement each other. How powerful! This was Long Chen's first time seeing such a powerful cry of the heavenly Taos. Despite having activated the Nirvana scripture, Long Chen still felt a heavy suppression. It felt like a boulder was crushing his heart, and it was extremely uncomfortable. Your current expression is really wonderful. Do you feel shocked? Helplessness? Despair? Huo Wufang laughed heartily, his laughter filled with delight. Shock? A bit. Helplessness? I've never hoped to get any help from anyone. As for despair? Sorry, even in front of something impossible to resist, I don't feel despair. As for you? You're greatly lacking, sneered Long Chen. Just by this aura, it was clear a rank 2 celestial was much stronger. This aura was 10 times greater than a rank 1 celestial. But as for getting Long Chen to feel despair in front of this level, was that a joke? Even in front of heavenly tribulations, Long Chen hadn't felt despair. How could he feel despair because of a person, especially one that he had easily beaten before? Huo Wufang raised his arms. Rumbling filled the air as the runes behind him began to tremble. His aura soared to its peak state, and he suddenly shot toward Long Chen. Let's see just how strong you are. Long Chen smiled. If it were yesterday, perhaps he wouldn't feel confident facing a rank 2 celestial. But right now, Long Chen felt no fear. Boom. Long Chen met Huo Wufang's fist with his own, one covered in thunder force. This was an exchange with no fanciness, purely a collision of power. One was someone who had merged with a rank 2 celestial skeleton, the other was someone who had just condensed the Enlightenment Palace star's cyclone. The land trembled and shattered. This berserk energy formed a huge domain. If someone were to look from the sky, they would see a spherical domain rapidly growing, covering everything within 1,000 miles. It was like the apocalypse had come. The entire ground was sinking. It was fortunate that Long Chen had rushed far enough away and there was no one else present. Otherwise, even Xiantian experts would immediately be blown to pieces by the shockwaves. But even if there was no one present, the landscape was enough to show their power. The surrounding mountains shattered and the terrain had completely transformed. The place they were standing over was rapidly subsiding. The two of them were both shocked by the other's strength. They poured in all their energy, wanting to suppress their opponent. As the ground beneath them sank, the surrounding ground actually began to rise, forming a huge basin with the two of them at the core. Furthermore, this basin was growing deeper as the two of them increased their power. In just a few breaths, it was already hundreds of miles deep. Suddenly, the two of them stopped descending. They had gotten so low that they had run into a certain kind of rock. That rock instantly burst upon being struck by their force. Following that rock's shattering, lava erupted. A terrifying heat enveloped the two of them. The lava incessantly spurted out, quickly filling the basin. But the creators of the basin had already disappeared. Two figures wrapped in flames shot out of the lava, soaring into the sky. Huo Wufang's heavenly Dao runes had formed two wings behind him, allowing him to fly in the sky. As for Long Chen, flame runes rapidly condensed behind him, forming a pair of 30-meter wings. With those raging flame wings, Long Chen looked just like a flame god. He seemed incomparably domineering. Flame cloud wings. Huo Wufang's expression became slightly envious. He had once trained in the flame cloud wings, but his spiritual strength hadn't been enough to keep up with the exhaustion of using it. Not only was Long San's alchemy talent greater than his, but his spiritual strength was also miles ahead. Now, he had already merged with a rank 2 Celestial's bones, but he was still unable to suppress him. That made him go almost crazy. Die! The more Huo Wufang thought about it, the more furious he became. His wings suddenly trembled, and he shot forward at Long Chen. His fist became covered in runes. Boom! Long Chen hastily blocked. He didn't know what magical art Huo Wufang had used, but Long Chen was smashed back hundreds of meters away. Huo Wufang continued pressing his advantage, another fist coming for Long Chen. This fist is strange. Long Chen's heart shook. He changed his fist into a palm, using technique instead of brute strength. Slamming his palm into Huo Wufang's wrist, he forced his attack to miss. Originally, Long Chen had been planning on giving Huo Wufang a vicious kick to his abdomen to injure him. But when he saw Huo Wufang's sinister and tray-shaped face, he instinctively swung out his hand, sending him flying with a slap. As soon as he did that, Long Chen felt regret. This was truly an occupational disease. What was the point of slapping him now? It didn't hurt him. It would have been so much more beneficial to kick him in the crotch. Long San. While Long Chen felt regret, Huo Wufang went crazy with rage. Only one person had slapped him in his life, and that had been incredibly shameful to him. Later, that person had died in the Chaos region and he had forgotten that humiliation. But now, this slap immediately sparked that old fury of his. With a furious roar, his wings trembled and his body became covered in runes. It was as if he was wearing runic armor as he shot at Long Chen. Boom! Long Chen was shocked. Now that Huo Wufang had summoned this runic armor, his strength had grown explosively. Long Chen was sent flying, and a burst of pain came from his arm. His bones had been broken. Consecutive explosive sounds rang out. Long Chen was forced back repeatedly by Huo Wufang. This was his first time fighting someone with such terrifying strength. Boom! Long Chen was once more sent flying. These repeated exchanges made Long Chen feel like his entire skeleton was about to shatter. Huo Wufang's bones were truly too hard. What Long Chen didn't know was that Huo Wufang was using a powerful battle skill, the strongest battle skill the original owner of his skeleton had trained in. Back when the skeleton had been merged into Huo Wufang, its master's soul had also been merged into it. That was so he could obtain all the battle skills he had possessed. Then during the finals of the Pill Emperor competition, Huo Wufang had sacrificed that soul. At that time, he had already absorbed all that soul's useful memories, so it had been useless to him. Furthermore, this skeleton's master had been a body cultivator. All his life's cultivation had been focused on his bones. So after merging with this skeleton, Huo Wufang had gained at least 80% of its original master's combat strength. Long San, you can die now. Huo Wufang's face was twisted in a sinister expression. It seemed like he wanted to viciously bite Long Chen to death. Long Chen sighed. Fine, I admit that fighting as an alchemist is too sullen. I'll change back to my old profession. Divine Ring. Following Long Chen's shout, a divine ring appeared behind his back. A terrifying pressure descended and an intense rumbling raged. The divine ring was incredibly imposing and brilliant, but it still consisted of 3 colors. There was no sign of the 4th color at all. That was within Long Chen's expectations. After all, he had only just condensed the cyclone of the Enlightenment Palace star. There was no way to bring out the 4th color. But even so, with the divine ring, Long Chen felt endless energy crazily pouring into him. Long Chen was in the air. The flame cloud wings kept him afloat with the 300-meter divine ring right behind him. Huo Wufang was shocked. Is this technique very familiar to you? Long Chen wiped his hand over his face, revealing his original appearance. There was no need for him to disguise himself any longer. Long Chen. Huo Wufang finally called out this name. His expression became twisted in fury, but Long Chen surprisingly saw some confusion in his eyes, as if he was trying to remember something. So that's what it was. No wonder it was so easy to fool you. All the proof I prepared ended up being useless. Seeing Huo Wufang's expression, Long Chen immediately understood something that had confused him. Huo Wufang's memories regarding him had definitely been erased. This purge had to have been similar to hypnosis. It was an extremely profound and difficult-to-use spiritual art. If they had completely erased Huo Wufang's memories regarding a person, then that would have been extremely harmful to his soul. The Huo family's experts hadn't done that. They had only erased a portion of his memories pertaining to how Long Chen had tormented him. Those memories were gone, but they hadn't been able to erase his hatred for Long Chen. So seeing Long Chen, Huo Wufang's hatred soared, and he knew Long Chen was definitely his mortal enemy, but he couldn't remember how Long Chen had made him hate him so much. He didn't understand what was going on, but Long Chen did. The Huo family had erased Huo Wufang's heart devil. Otherwise, it would have been very possible that he would have never advanced again. No matter what's going on, you have to die today. Huo Wufang roared furiously and he shot towards Long Chen. Long Chen also punched out. Their fists collided and space almost exploded. Huo Wufang was the one to suffer this time. He was sent flying, almost vomiting blood. He felt like he had just tried to punch an immovable mountain, which resulted in a burst of pain from his wrist. It had almost broken from the impact just now. The 9-star Hegemon body art really is the most dependable. Long Chen looked at his fist. Sensing endless energy surging within him, he was filled with excitement. He had only just condensed the Enlightenment Palace star's cyclone. But with the divine ring, his power had leaped to this level. If he fully condensed the star, what would happen when he summoned the 4-color divine ring? What would happen when he summoned the 4-star battle armor? Huo Wufang, hand over your life. Long Chen suddenly took the initiative. He had recalled Yi Zhiqiu and Lu Feng. It was because of Huo Wufang that the 2 of them had fallen. Later, Yu Zhiqiu had been taken away by a peerless expert. It was unknown whether or not she had been revived. But Lu Feng was completely dead. Each time he thought of his time with Lu Feng, Long Chen would feel a burst of pain. Seeing the person who had caused this pain in front of him, his killing intent soared. Long Chen's fist fell upon Huo Wufang. Huo Wufang's hasty block ended up wasted, as he was shocked to realize this attack was a fake. He suddenly felt a burst of pain from his side. The sound of bones breaking rang out. Long Chen's kick landed on his ribs and sent him flying. Huo Wufang was horrified. Although he had acquired some of his new bones memories that only referred to the battle skills, he hadn't dared to completely absorb that expert's soul, as it was all too easy for his mind to split. So right now, he truly did have 80% of a rank 2 Celestial's combat strength, but his close-range fighting experience was still at his old level. As an alchemist, Huo Wufang had trained in using pill flame to fight. He wasn't used to this kind of fighting. As a result, under continuous attacks from Long Chen, he began to suffer injury after injury. Long Chen's attack power had risen to a new level. Each one of his attacks was as heavy as a mountain, and Huo Wufang was horrified to see his bones begin to break. They were actually unable to bear Long Chen's force. These bones had come from a powerful body cultivator and a rank 2 celestial, but they were still unable to bear Long Chen's force. If this continued, Huo Wufang would definitely die. Bastard! I'll kill you no matter what. Dao runes, return to my bones. Boom! The heavenly Dao runes behind Huo Wufang disappeared. Huo Wufang's entire body began to shine as light could be seen coming out from his bones. In that instant, Huo Wufang's aura grew explosively, as if a volcano had erupted and was releasing a constant stream of power. Huo Wufang charged at Long Chen. His aura was incredibly shocking, and space was constantly twisting around him. Long Chen's eyes brightened. At this time, Huo Wufang's strength had erupted to an unprecedented level, but Long Chen felt no fear. Just like that, he unleashed a flurry of punches, fighting against Huo Wufang without the slightest fanciness. Boom boo boo. Continuous explosive sounds rang out. Huo Wufang's body was surrounded by his runic light, and his energy came in an unending stream. As for Long Chen, his divine ring began to slowly revolve. Divine rumbling sounds came from it, and he didn't appear lacking compared to Huo Wufang. Boom. Once more, the two of them collided and separated. Huo Wufang's long hair danced as he suddenly raised his head and roared. His eyes were filled with a crazy light. I'll take your life with this move. Huo Wufang shot forward. In that instant, the light surrounding him faded. All of it focused on his right fist. His fist seemed like a blazing sun, lighting up the entire sky with its endless runes. This fist contained endless killing intent. Suddenly, his fist exploded. Even his right arm disappeared all the way to his shoulder. Huo Wufang had an expression of disbelief. He felt like the world had suddenly lost all its sound. In front of Huo Wufang, Long Chen stood calmly. 3 stars had appeared in his eyes. In terms of alchemy, you're trash. Even after obtaining a new skeleton and becoming a fake rank 2 celestial, you still aren't able to change the fact that you're trash. The reason experts are experts isn't because they have so much power, but because they have a powerful heart. Other people's strength will never be yours. Even if you can borrow it, it won't have any use. Die in peace. Long Chen pointed his finger at Huo Wufang's forehead. Just now, he had summoned the 3-star battle armor. With a single attack, he had broken Huo Wufang's arm, as well as shattering all his internal organs and even his muscles. Right now, Huo Wufang was like porcelain that had been wrapped up in skin. The porcelain was already broken. If he didn't have this layer of skin, he'd have already fallen apart. No, Huo Wufang was horrified, but he was powerless to resist. A ray of thunder force pierced through Huo Wufang's forehead, coming out through the back of his head. Huo Wufang's soul was directly destroyed. His corpse collapsed. His eyes had lost any life, but they still seemed to contain endless unwillingness and confusion, as if he still couldn't believe that he would die. The Hua family had spent endless wealth to give him a new skeleton, making him a rank 2 celestial. Moreover, they had even obtained the first rank beast flame for him. His future prospects were supposed to be unlimited. How could he have died here? You really are unlucky. If we had fought before I condensed the Enlightenment Palace Star's cyclone, you would have at least had a 30% chance of beating me. But then again, before I condensed that cyclone, you had yet to perfectly merge with your skeleton. So this is just your fate. Once his enemy was dead and his soul dispersed, the hate in Long Chen's heart also disappeared. Suddenly, countless runes flew out of Huo Wufang's body. A lightning blade directly shattered all these runes. The primal chaos space trembled and those destroyed heavenly Dao runes merged into the heavenly Dao tree. A new heavenly Dao fruit was born. Long Chen couldn't help being delighted. This wasn't the same as his other heavenly Dao fruits. Those other ones had only had 1 Dao mark on them. But this one had 2 different Dao marks. Rank 2 heavenly Dao fruit. Long Chen was delighted. Assuming he wasn't wrong, this could raise a rank 2 celestial. A rank 2 celestial was a terrifying existence. Huo Wufang had merely obtained a new skeleton, but he already possessed such power. The fact that Long Chen could defeat Huo Wufang wasn't because Huo Wufang was weak. It was just that he was comparatively unlucky. Long Chen's strongest point was his close-range combat, and he had incomparable experience in that regard. For an alchemist to fight in close quarters with him was simply asking to die. Furthermore, he hadn't originally been a celestial. Just through refining a skeleton, his power was definitely limited. If Long Chen had met a true rank 2 celestial instead, he really would have no assurance in defeating one. Since you've died, I'll help you protect your things. Long Chen took off Huo Wufang's spatial ring. That was the silver spatial ring he had obtained from the tower ancestor. Damn, it's actually a life ring, and a huge 300-mile one. This was Long Chen's first time seeing such a vast life ring. Its value was inestimable. There's too much stuff in here. Just looking at it gives me a headache. When I get back, I'll have Meng Qi help me tidy up this space. She's the best at this. Long Chen had originally been thinking of categorizing the things inside, but it was too chaotic. He gave up. Long Chen placed his palm over Huo Wufang's dantian, and a golden flame answered his call. That was the Earth Dragon Golden Blaze. Long Chen directly sucked it out for Long Chen, then released a mass of flames that incinerated Huo Wufang's body. Even a rank 2 celestial's bones weren't able to resist the earth flame. After tidying up, Long Chen began rushing back to Pilyang City. He wanted to know what had happened with the Fong family. He had to go over and help. Long Chen had only been rushing for an incense stick's worth of time, and Pilyang City was not yet in view, when he saw a group of people up ahead. Long Chen, are you all right? The people who had come were actually Fang Mingyuan and Chai Gaoyang. The two of them were leading a dozen sea expansion experts. I'm fine. I just suffered some minor injuries. Looking at your state, it seems everything went smoothly? Long Chen smiled. Fang Mingyuan said, it went extremely well. That old fellow Hua Changxing felt too secure in his position, thinking the Hua family was still the same Hua family of the past. Over many years, we've established secret alliances with quite a few sects, and we've even bought some of the members of the Hua family. With our coordination from inside and outside, the Hua family was completely destroyed. Out of their 3,000 members, not one managed to escape. Hearing that the Hua family had been completely destroyed, Long Chen frowned slightly. Although the Hua family was trash, he still felt a bit unwell to hear that the women and children had also been killed. Did you end up encountering Huo Wufang? Asked Fang Mingyuan. He ran. I ended up killing a few of his celestials, and the others got too scared to fight. I couldn't catch up to them, and I was worried about what was happening, so I returned, said Long Chen. Long Chen didn't want to expose too much of what had happened with Huo Wufang. Furthermore, he had a bad feeling for some reason. Perhaps it was because he felt uncomfortable with the Hua family being exterminated to the last man. It's fine if he got away. We'll chase. Without the Hua family's support, he's just a random dog. Chai Gaoyang smiled and walked up to Long Chen. He patted him on the shoulder. Long Chen, it's all thanks to you. Senior is too courteous. In truth, 50. Long Chen suddenly felt a burst of pain from his chest. He saw a black thorn sticking out from it. Space suddenly trembled and the surroundings changed. Long Chen found himself in a barren land. Chai Gaoyang, who had previously been talking so amicably to him, now had a slightly cold expression. As for Fang Mingyuan, he retreated a bit, staring closely at Long Chen. The other sea expansion experts also took out their weapons and surrounded Long Chen. Long Chen looked down at the thorn through his chest. Although he hadn't seen where it had come from, based on the angle, it seemed like it had been Fang Mingyuan who had shot him. This arrow was clearly poisoned. It was a kind of mixed poison, one with practically no cure. Furthermore, this poison was extremely fast-acting. Before you could even figure out what poisons were part of this mixture, you would already be dead. Long Chen slowly raised his head to look at Fang Mingyuan. He sighed. Can you tell me why you did this? A slightly guilty expression appeared on Fang Mingyuan's face. Long Chen, don't blame us for being heartless. We did this for our families. You want my earth flame? Long Chen looked up at the stars. It was difficult to say what expression he had right now. Correct. Earth flames are treasures of heaven and earth. There's not a single alchemist that wouldn't long for one. During the finals, despite how critical that moment was, you still chose not to use your earth flame. My guess is that your earth flame hasn't matured, and you are unable to connect with it, so you can't use it for alchemy. So, after thinking about it over and over, we decided we had to steal your earth flame. If we waited too long, your earth flame would mature and become harder to subdue. This is an extremely rare opportunity for us, said Fang Mingyuan. Long Chen bitterly smiled, shaking his head. As expected, old ginger is hotter than young ginger. Looks like I'm still too naive. Then let me ask you, did Fang Chang and Chai Liehua know about this matter? Fang Mingyuan shook his head. They didn't know. Otherwise, there would have been no way for us to complete this trap. Long Chen nodded. That really is very comforting to me. If they had also betrayed me, I'd be very hurt. Thank you for telling me. Long Chen, we were also forced. We had no choice, said Fang Mingyuan with a complicated expression. You were forced? Ha, don't find excuses for yourselves. Not even a child would believe such a lie. You know, normally I rely on my intuition when interacting with others. My intuition has never lied to me. But this time, I didn't go with my intuition. Instead, I went with my calculations. I thought that people who could raise Fang Chang and Chai Liehua had to be open and straightforward. Turns out I was wrong and very wrong. Do you know? I, Long Chen, have gone through countless life and death battles. I'm not afraid of death. What I'm afraid of is betrayal. I can accept anything, but I can't accept betrayal. Now let me ask you, do you still want to take my earth flame? Long Chen's voice was quiet and very calm, but it was trembling slightly, showing how complicated his current emotions were. Long Chen, saying this now has no meaning. Today, you'll definitely die. Due to how much help you gave us, we'll allow you to kill yourself and keep your corpse intact, said Chai Gaoyang coldly. Suddenly, Long Chen grabbed the thorn piercing into his chest and pulled it out. This metallic thorn was covered in barbs that pulled out Long Chen's flesh. That flesh was already starting to corrode. The poison was terrifyingly toxic. Long Chen threw the thorn to the ground. In truth, there are a few things we should discuss while we can. The first matter involves the fact that when the Hua family attacked the Fang family, no experts appeared to defend. That simply didn't make any sense, and I felt it was extremely strange. But back then, I told myself that the Fang family's experts had to be gathering in secret or perhaps setting up some formation. But as soon as I led those celestials away, the experts appeared. This is something I was aware of, but I still chose to trust Fang Chang and Chai Liehua. They are my brothers, and I refused to believe they would betray me. If my guess is right at that time, your people were actually split into two groups. Your main force must have secretly attacked the Hua family at the same time as the Hua family attacked the Fang family. This is why the only people to come after me were celestials, and not sea expansion experts. Because at that time, the Hua family's experts had to return to defend. Fang Mingyuan nodded. You're right. My calculation was that you would have misgivings about the lives of the innocent, and you would intentionally lead the enemies away. Because you are Long Chen, you are known for not slaughtering the innocent, and you also don't like implicating others. And my guess was right. My Fang family only left behind 2 sea expansion experts to defend. Once you led the experts away, they immediately cleaned up the leftovers. As for the 2 of us, we led our elites, as well as some experts from various sects that joined our side, to attack the Hua family. As a result, the Hua family was practically instantly exterminated. In just 2 hours, they were all dead. According to my original plan, with your strength, even if you couldn't defeat the ones you drew away, you should still be able to flee. My guess was that you would endure long enough for us to arrive. I just didn't expect you to be even stronger than what I guessed. You actually managed to drive them away, said Fang Mingyuan. Long Chen's combat strength was truly terrifying. On his own, fighting against 10 celestials, he had still managed to force them to flee miserably. That was truly hard to believe. These sea expansion experts were all shocked. That was the first matter. The second matter is that I lied before. Those experts didn't run, because they couldn't run. They're all dead, said Long Chen. What? Fang Mingyuan and the others were all startled. Dead? All of them? Impossible. With that many celestials, even if they couldn't kill him, they should have been able to run. The third matter is that the skeleton Huo Wufang merged with was special, and he is now a rank 2 celestial, continued Long Chen. Nonsense. If he was rank 2 celestial, how could you still be alive? Roared Chai Gaoyang. A rank 2 celestial was a terrifying existence. At the Xiantian realm, they could match a late sea expansion expert. I'm alive, so he's obviously dead, said Long Chen. Impossible. Long Chen shrugged. It's up to you if you want to believe me. Now it's time for the fourth matter. This is also the last matter. I have to say goodbye to you all. In the other world, you can continue to fight Hua Changsheng. I hope you'll still be the winners at that time. Fang Mingyuan and the others were surprised. More and more, they were unable to comprehend what Long Chen was saying. At the same time, a bad feeling rose in their hearts. His injury. Suddenly, someone pointed at Long Chen's chest. At some unknown point, the wound had completely healed without leaving the slightest scar. In truth, Long Chen had been taking advantage of this time to circulate the primal chaos bead. Endless life energy had erased the poison. But this poison had truly been terrifying. Long Chen had almost exhausted all the life energy in the primal chaos space before recovering. But despite that, he had achieved his goal. Attack! Ordered Fang Mingyuan. Blazing flames erupted from his body, and a flame blade appeared in his hands. He was the first to attack Long Chen. As soon as he attacked, he used his full strength. Long Chen gave him a strange feeling of terror. Despite being a late sea expansion expert, he didn't dare to be careless. Boom! A huge divine ring appeared behind Long Chen. A terrifying pressure descended and suddenly a cold light slashed forth. Split the heavens. The blade Long Chen was using wasn't Blooddrinker. It was something he had taken from a corrupt expert. As soon as he attacked, there were 8 sea expansion experts that didn't even have time to react. They were directly blown apart by Long Chen's attack. Fang Mingyuan and the others' hearts shook. They finally believed Long Chen's words. But now it was too late. Long Chen had suddenly soared into the air, both hands holding his saber. Split the heavens too. Long Chen's saber was pointed toward the sky, and a huge saber image pierced through the clouds. A powerful aura locked down Fang Mingyuan and the others. They were all horrified. They had never seen such a terrifying move. Long Chen had previously used the first form of Split the Heavens. Now that he was using the second form, and the residual energy of the first form was absorbed by it. This was Long Chen's first time using the second form of Split the Heavens against enemies. Currently, 3 stars had appeared in his eyes. His saber mercilessly slashed down. 9 Revolution Flame Shield. Fang Mingyuan and Chai Gaoyang both activated the same technique, condensing all their pill flame into a huge shield in front of them. Their flame shields weren't large. They only covered the 2 of them. Obviously, they had abandoned the others in favor of increasing their shield's power as high as possible. The 2 shields layered before them. Boom! The huge saber image slashed down like an apocalyptic blade. All of heaven and earth was cut in 2, and a bottomless ditch appeared before Long Chen. Long Chen spat out a breath of turbid air. This attack was incomparably fierce, but it had also used up all his spiritual yuan. He felt like the second form of Split the Heavens could never be satisfied. No matter how much spiritual yuan he had, using this move would use up all of it. But the more spiritual yuan he had, the greater its power. Looking at the huge ditch that extended so far and so deep that he couldn't see the end, he was filled with shock. Long Chen had seen those sea expansion experts do their best to resist. But when they had encountered that saber image, they had been directly blown apart. Suddenly, 2 miserable figures crawled out of the ground. As soon as they did, they began to wildly vomit blood. These two were Fang Mingyuan and Chai Gaoyang. Having condensed all their pill flame in front of them to form their greatest defense, they had managed to survive. But although they were alive, it had come at a terrible price. They no longer even appeared human. They were like two piles of flesh. All their meridians had already been destroyed. They only had a few more breaths of life compared to dead men. Save me? I don't want to die. Chai Gaoyang looked at Long Chen, extending one half-destroyed arm, begging. Sorry, I obviously can't. I already said that I can accept anything except betrayal, said Long Chen. Long Chen had only just finished speaking when his saber suddenly exploded, causing him to jump in shock. Just now, having continuously used Split the Heavens, the power had been too fierce. Even this saber, which was an enchanted item, was unable to endure that explosive force. Long Chen, because of Liao, save me, Chai Gaoyang no longer possessed an air of an expert. He looked like an ordinary elder begging for life. He didn't want to die. Originally, we shouldn't have ended up like this. Because of Fang Chang and Chai Liehua, you two were once respected elders in my eyes. I trusted you that much. But what did you do? You not only betrayed me, but you also betrayed your descendants, as well as betrayed your conscience. Your greed clouded your eyes, and you attacked someone on the same side as you. You have only yourselves to blame, sighed Long Chen. Save. Chai Gaoyang's flame of life was unable to continue burning. The pill ancestor fell just like that. If only his physical body had been destroyed, then relying on his spiritual strength, he could still survive as a soul. In the future, he could find a suitable physical body to snatch. That was what the Hua family's elder had done in the Chaos region. However, having gone all out to create his flame shield, he had poured all his spiritual strength into the shield. As a result, Long Chen's attack hadn't just broken the flame shield, it had also broken his soul. Really, why bother? Fang Mingyuan looked at the dead Chai Gaoyang with a self-mocking expression. He was slightly better off than Chai Gaoyang, but only slightly. He had also reached his final moments. Long Chen didn't say anything. He just looked at him. In this situation, there was nothing to say. Long Chen, I know I don't have the qualifications to ask you for anything, but still please. It was Chai Gaoyang and I that made this plan. Fang Chang and Chai Liehua had no idea. I hope you won't release your anger on them. Fang Mingyuan's state improved slightly for a brief moment. That was the final radiance of the setting sun. Don't worry. They didn't betray me, so I definitely won't betray them. Originally, we never should have fought like this, but after today, I won't be able to face the two of them. I will return to my identity as Long Chen. As for Long San, he is dead. Our brotherhood is also over. Hearing this, Fang Mingyuan felt a bit of comfort. Long Chen wasn't going to find trouble for the Fang family. They would be safe. But then hearing his last sentence, he felt a burst of regret. Everything had been caused by him and Chai Gaoyang. They had allowed their greed to control them. Otherwise, if the Fang family had an alliance with a person like Long Chen, one with limitless potential, just how perfect would that have been? But there was no way to go back in time. Thanks. Fang Mingyuan said these final two words before closing his eyes. Another generation's expert fell. Long Chen sighed. He felt extremely uncomfortable inside. He rarely trusted others, but anyone who he trusted completely. This was his first time feeling so betrayed. He felt a stabbing pain. He went to their corpses. He dug a large hole and buried the two of them. He didn't even touch their treasures. He buried them all. Long Chen merely took Chai Gaoyang's identity plate before leaving. All he left behind was a chaotic battlefield. Looking from an aerial point of view, it seemed as if something had cut a long wound into the earth. A cool breeze blew by, desolate and bleak. Long Chen rushed off. Just now, Fang Mingyuan and Chai Gaoyang had activated a transportation formation to bring him several thousand miles away. He reckoned that they had wanted to kill him in a secluded place. He was going straight toward Pilyang City. Taking advantage of the night, he changed his face and used Chai Gaoyang's identity plate to enter the 7 Treasure Jewel Towers storehouse. He directly went to where the beast flames were kept. The guards here all recognized his identity plate. Long Chen easily went in. Long Chen directly released Hua Long, and it didn't stand on courtesy. It directly devoured hundreds of beast flames. Now Hua Long was truly satisfied. Only then did Long Chen stealthily leave the 7 treasure jewel tower. He found that Pilyang City was in a complete mess. The Hua family had been destroyed, while the Fang and Chai families had suffered a sneak attack. Danger was everywhere. Some people were hiding while others were fleeing. Long Chen switched into some ordinary robes, acting the part of an ordinary martial cultivator. Looking at the Fang manor from a distance, he saw Fang Chang and Chai Liehuan nervously waiting. Long Chen sighed and left. His figure disappeared into the night. When the day came, the news that the Hua, Fang, and Chai families had undergone an all-out war with each other shook all of Pilyang Prefecture. The Hua family's destruction caused countless people's jaws to drop. The result of their battle had been the destruction of the Hua family, but the Fang and Chai families had also taken grievous losses. Both their families' heads, as well as the Fang family's legendary Long San, had disappeared. The Fang and Chai families underwent a large-scale search. Half a month later, they finally found scars of a terrifying battle in a barren land. Then, after searching through the soil, they found their 2 families' heads' corpses. At the same time, they found a half-destroyed body wearing Long San's robes. Those robes proved this semi-destroyed corpse was Long San. They concluded that Long San and the others had run into shockingly powerful enemies here, and as a result, both sides had lost their lives to take down their opponents. That was because they found all kinds of broken body pieces around. It was impossible to tell exactly how many people there had been. Fang Chang and Chai Liehua had burst into tears right then and there. In this one day, they had not only lost the pillars of their families, but they had also lost a good brother. They had immediately brought Long San's corpse back into the Fang family and buried it in their ancestral land. When the alchemy world learned that Long San, a generation's top genius, had died, there was not one person that didn't sigh in lament. He had only just become the champion of the Pill Emperor competition and had just been about to dazzle the world when he fell. This news caused Pill Valley to send someone to take a look. But they only did take one look before leaving. Before leaving, all they had said was that the 7 treasure jewel towers' beast flames had been stolen, and that damage would have to be compensated by the Fang and Chai families. As for the destruction of the Hua family, as long as the sales of medicinal pills didn't decline, they wouldn't investigate this matter any further. In truth, to Pill Valley, the pill towers were just ways for them to interact with the mundane world. They didn't care who came to look after these strongholds. All they cared about was that this stronghold didn't look bad and made money. This was also why the 3 families had dared to fight so openly. Originally, the Hua family had been the rising star, waiting for the moment to completely devour the other 2 families. But that plan had been ruined by Long San. As a result, before the decisive battle, their strength had sharply fallen, and it was them that were devoured by the other 2 families instead. Currently, the Pill Tower was truly the land of the Fang and Chai families. But Fang Chang and Chai Liehua didn't feel any happiness. Instead, they felt endless pressure. All the heavy responsibilities had fallen on their shoulders overnight. But the name of Pill Valley was something no one could provoke. No one dared to do anything to the Pill Tower. Provoking Pill Valley? In this world, there really were few powers that dared to be that crazy. So despite the Hua family's destruction, the rest of the Pill Tower was completely safe. As for Long Chen, the one who had caused this chaotic conclusion, he had long since stepped onto a transportation formation and returned to Su Prefecture, rushing back to the Xiantian Supermonastery. When he saw that familiar mountain gate, Long Chen finally had a feeling of a loafer's son returning home. Here were his loved ones, here were his brothers, here were the ones he wanted to protect. Brothers, I, Long Chen, have returned. Long Chen suddenly roared, his roar shaking the sky. Following Long Chen's roar, the disciples guarding the Xiantian Supermonastery were all alarmed. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen. You're still alive. Those disciples all recognized Long Chen. In the entire Supermonastery, It seemed there wasn't anyone that wouldn't recognize him. But everyone knew that Long Chen had ended up running into heavenly punishment with countless corrupt experts, and they had all died. Now seeing him, they didn't dare to believe it. How refreshing. If I were dead, then are you all seeing a ghost now? Laughed Long Chen. But Long Chen found something a bit odd. His shout had definitely rung out throughout the entire super monastery, but he didn't see Shui Wuhan, Meng Qi, Tang Wana, or any of the dragon blood warriors. Long Chen, you're alive. The person who had come was actually one of the elders from way back in the 108th monastery. After they had been attacked in the first monastery, there had been too many things to do and the construction of the new first monastery had been temporarily stalled. Thus, the old 108th monastery's elders had stayed within the super monastery. Normally, they would help out with a few random tasks. Long Chen remembered this person to be surnamed Qi. News that Long Chen had died was already common knowledge in the super monastery. The only ones aware of the truth had been Shui Wuhan and the Dragon Blood Legion. Everyone else had truly thought he was dead. Now seeing him return, they were delighted. This encounter made Long Chen extremely emotional. He recalled his time in the 108th monastery. This kind of feeling was exceptionally precious to him after experiencing the betrayal of Fang Mingyuan and Chai Gaoyang. Elder Qi, sorry I came back late, said Long Chen a bit guiltily. I'm just glad that you're back. Elder Qi hastily wiped his eyes and smiled. When people are old, it really is easy to get emotional. Long Chen was about to reply when a cold shout rang out. What person dares to disturb the supermonastery's peace? A middle-aged man suddenly appeared. A pair of wings allowed him to float in the sky as he looked down on them. Greetings, monastery head. The surrounding disciples immediately bowed. Monastery head, this person is, Elder Qi tried to give an introduction. Shut up. I don't care who he is. Someone come and take him away, ordered the middle-aged man. Over 10 experts immediately shot forward, just about to capture Long Chen. These people were Xiantian elders. But Long Chen didn't recognize a single one. Wait a moment. For you? Long Chen asked icily. How was it that everyone was so foreign now? Long Chen, this is our new monastery head, explained Elder Qi. What about monastery head Shui? Asked Long Chen. Monastery head Shui, shut up. You brazen brat, you dare to pretend to be my supermonastery's disciple? As I see it, you're tired of life. Capture him, ordered the middle-aged man, cutting off Elder Qi's words. The Xiantian experts directly charged at Long Chen without a word. A cold smile was present on their faces. But just as they were about to reach him, scram! A thunderous roar rang out, and a powerful aura directly blew back all those Xiantian experts and caused them to vomit blood. Xiantian. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen has also stepped into the Xiantian realm. This aura was clearly the aura of the Xiantian realm. But Long Chen's aura was incredibly fierce and berserk. Just through his aura, he was able to knock other Xiantian experts unconscious. Elder Qi stood behind Long Chen. Seeing that Long Chen had grown to such a shocking point, he couldn't help feeling delighted. How brazen! You dare to injure my people in front of me? Be suppressed. The middle-aged man extended his hand, and a huge palm image smashed toward Long Chen. This was an attack from a sea expansion expert. Space trembled intensely from this attack, and the disciples with lower cultivation bases felt like a mountain was crushing them. Their faces were pale as paper, and they almost coughed up blood. Long Chen's expression darkened. This bastard was definitely doing this on purpose. With a cold shout, he slammed his palm towards this attack. Boom! What shocked everyone was that the monastery head's palm image was directly blown apart by Long Chen. The monastery head was completely shocked. He had never imagined that Long Chen's power had reached this level. Suddenly he realized Long Chen had vanished. In the next instant, a figure appeared in front of him. Before he could even react, a palm viciously slapped across his face. Pow! An incredibly resounding sound rang out. Anyone in the super monastery could hear it. In front of everyone's horrified gazes, the middle-aged man was sent flying like a shooting star, smashing into the ground. A huge crater was blown into the ground. Everyone was dumbfounded. This new monastery head, a grand sea expansion expert, was forced to submit by a slap from Long Chen. Bah! The middle-aged man roared and crawled up, but before he could say any more, Long Chen's second slap struck. This time, the power was even greater than before. His jaw was directly broken. But he wasn't sent flying. That was because this time, there was a hand clenching his throat. An insignificant early sea expansion weakling dares to try abusing me? I really have to admire your courage. I'm also curious, how did you manage to live until today? Long Chen looked at the miserable fellow in his grasp. Seeing this, everyone's jaws dropped. It was practically possible to see their stomachs through their mouths. This was too exaggerated, wasn't it? Long Chen had only just returned, but he directly beat up the new monastery head? He really was worthy of being the strongest monster in the history of the super monastery. Who are you? Asked Long Chen coldly. How brazen. Do you understand what you're doing? The middle-aged man actually still wanted to threaten Long Chen. But as a result, Long Chen's foot landed on his crotch. Two round things slipped out from his pant legs and fell to the ground. Every male immediately felt a chill and clamped their legs. I don't like wasting words. I asked, who are you? Long Chen acted as if he hadn't done anything at all and continued his questioning. The middle-aged man's expression was incredibly twisted now. This was his first time tasting this kind of pain. From Long Chen's icy gaze, he sensed a fatal danger. That made a chill run through him, and he immediately became much more clear-headed. He knew if he infuriated Long Chen anymore, he would definitely die. Zhou. Chuji, he stuttered. You're from the Zhou family? Long Chen narrowed his eyes. Yes. Long Chen wanted to continue questioning him, but seeing that he was already sweating from the pain, he realized questioning him would be too much work. Elder Qi, what's going on? Asked Long Chen. From Elder Qi, Long Chen learned that Shui Wuhan had brought all the supermonastery's elite disciples to the Xiantian Dao sect a week ago. The Xiantian Dao sect was having a great gathering. This gathering was also a trial for their disciples. Therefore, the supermonasteries were to send all their finest disciples over. So right now, only the weak disciples remained in the supermonastery. This was also why Long Chen didn't see his people. Since Shui Wuhan had left, and since it was unacceptable that there would be no sea expansion expert standing guard over the supermonastery, the higher-ups had sent over an interim monastery head. But as soon as this monastery head arrived, he began to abuse his power. He made life hard on anyone he found displeasing. They all knew that this was because the Zhou family had lost so badly to the Shui family this time. They were intentionally trying to lower their morale. So right now, the supermonastery's atmosphere was extremely listless. Everyone hoped that the Xiantian Dao sect's gathering would end soon and that Shui Wuhan would kick this bastard out. Out of the people here, there were only a few who didn't hate this irritating fellow who was constantly finding trouble for them. Long Chen's slaps just now were so refreshing that they almost cheered. Hearing all this, Long Chen smiled coldly toward the middle-aged man in his grasp. No wonder you dare to target me like this. Not bad, you really do have guts. Due to those guts, I'll spare your life. Long Chen could slap him, but he couldn't kill him. After all, he was a sea expansion expert and currently had the status of a monastery head. Killing him would cause a great deal of trouble. Of course, the prerequisite was that he didn't touch upon Long Chen's bottom line. If he did, then even if he was backed by a god, he still wouldn't be able to keep his life. Pow! With one final slap from Long Chen, the middle-aged man was sent flying. He tumbled into the distance before stopping. Long Chen. The middle-aged man's aura immediately erupted. He was both infuriated and shocked. He wanted to clench his teeth, but he was unable to because his jaw was broken. The reason he hadn't done anything before was because Long Chen had had a grip on one of his vitals. He had been defeated only because he had been careless, but he wouldn't give Long Chen a second chance. What? You want to continue fighting? I'll welcome you at any time, But let me warn you. If you do attack me, I will kill you," said Long Chen. After saying that, he didn't give him a second glance. He entered the super monastery with Elder Qi. Long Chen needed to borrow the transportation formation inside to get to the Xiantian Dao sect. The middle-aged man's expression sank. He almost lost control several times and attacked, but his intuition told him that if he did, he wouldn't have a life anymore. But then if he didn't attack, what about his prestige? To be slapped in the face before this many people and not do anything back, how was he supposed to stay in control of the super monastery? While he was at a loss, Long Chen had already disappeared. In the end, the middle-aged man didn't dare to attack. In truth, even if he had, Long Chen wouldn't have taken his life. He would only take half his life. But when Long Chen left someone with half their life, it was often extremely uncomfortable for them. So his choice had definitely been correct. In the end, he didn't go find Long Chen for trouble. But Long Chen came to find him. "Get me an identity badge immediately." In just a few minutes, Long Chen obtained a new identity badge. He needed this badge to enter the Xiantian Dao sect. The scene before him changed. Long Chen found himself in an extremely ancient transportation formation. This formation was incredibly vast, covering an area of several miles. Around the formation were 4 pillars that soared into the clouds. The pillars sparkled with countless runes, and a majestic aura came from them. The formation had been built atop a large mountain. It was surrounded by ancient buildings which appeared to have been built eons ago. Who is it? Before Long Chen even had a chance to examine his surroundings, a cold shout rang out. Over 10 white-robed disciples appeared. These disciples were very young, but their cultivation bases had all reached the Xiantian realm. Each of their robes had a large immortal character embroidered on the front, Xian. Below that large Xian character were 2 smaller characters written in the modern-day style, Law Enforcement. They were the Xiantian Dao sect's law enforcers. For ordinary law enforcers to have reached the Xiantian realm, the Xiantian Dao sect was truly worthy of being an overlord of the Eastern Wasteland. This kind of foundation was truly shocking. "I am Long Chen. I'm a disciple coming to attend the Xiantian Dao sect's martial gathering," reported Long Chen. "The registration has already passed." "How are you so late? Where is your identity badge?" asked one law enforcer. "Here." Long Chen took out the new badge he had requested from the monastery head. That person examined it closely, and only after seeing there were no problems did he return it. "Follow this path down the mountain. After 17 more mountains, there will be a small transportation formation that will take you to the core of the Xiantian Dao sect. If you get lost, just ask around." Many thanks." Long Chen cupped his fists and rushed off according to that person's directions. The law enforcer watched as Long Chen left. He couldn't help muttering, "The 36th monastery's Long Chen? Why does this name sound so familiar? Damn it, the Xiantian Dao sect is way too big." Long Chen had been rushing along for 2 hours only to reach the 10th mountain. He had long since passed the 10,000-mile mark. It was a long time before he managed to reach the transportation formation. Using his identity badge, he stepped onto it. The scene before him changed once more, and he found himself in a huge plaza. Seeing this new scene, Long Chen couldn't help but curse. What was with this huge thing? This one plaza was actually larger than the entire super monastery. At the center of the plaza was an immense statue. It was the same as the one in the super monastery, but it was much, much larger. It almost reached the clouds in the sky. Azure bricks lined the plaza, with each having special runes carved into them. Even ordinary Xiantian experts would find it difficult to destroy one. Looking at this huge plaza, he estimated that there were hundreds of millions of these special bricks. People were coming and going within the plaza. These people were all young disciples wearing robes of the various super monasteries. It was very lively. Long Chen felt a feeling of unfamiliarity because he didn't recognize a single one of these people. "Look who's that." Suddenly, a group of chatting women saw Long Chen. "Why is he wearing different robes than us? How stylish." "And look at his gaze," said one woman. She wore her hair in a braid with a comb. Only now did Long Chen notice that everyone present was wearing white disciple robes. There was a number on their shoulder which indicated which super monastery they came from. Long Chen had come too hastily, and he hadn't worn his disciple robes. Well, even in the super monastery, he had rarely ever worn those disciple robes. He usually just wore a set of black robes. Now that everyone was wearing white and he was the only one wearing black, it was all too conspicuous. As soon as he appeared, he drew the surrounding people's attention. "What a cute little brother. Do you need help? Don't be courteous, big sister is right here." The closest female disciples were actually quite brazen and began to tease Long Chen. "Cute little brother?" After he had grown up, Long Chen had never been called with such an intimate appellation. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Little brother, don't be shy," she laughed. Long Chen was speechless. Looking at the number on their shoulders, he saw these women were from the 28th Super Monastery. "Big sisters, can you?" Long Chen was just about to ask where the 36th Super Monastery's camp was when quite a few people began to gather together in the distance. It seemed something was happening. Are the 36th Super Monastery's disciples being bullied again? Those women sighed. "Little brother, you were asking, where did he go?" That woman turned back, only to see that Long Chen had vanished. Long Chen passed through the crowd of people to see over 10 people surrounding 2 dragon blood warriors. Seeing those 2 warmed his heart. At this time, their cultivation bases had reached the mid-Xiantian realm. He smiled upon seeing that. Before going to the Pill Tower, Long Chen had warned everyone not to rapidly increase their cultivation bases. The point was to stabilize their realms. It seemed the assistance of the soul-calming song was even greater than he had expected. Although they had only reached the 4th heaven stage, he saw that their foundations had reached a pinnacle. That would be the greatest help for them when they advanced to see expansion. As for himself, over these months, his cultivation base had mostly stagnated. He was only at the 2nd heaven stage. Long Chen saw that the majority of the disciples present had all reached the mid-Xiantian realm. Some had even reached the late Xiantian realm. That made Long Chen sigh. He had been so busy that he hadn't had time to raise his cultivation base. It appeared that he would have to focus on it a bit more. "Don't go too far. We've accommodated you so far, but that's just because the monastery head told us not to cause trouble. It doesn't mean we're afraid of you," said one of the dragon blood warriors coldly. When the 36th Super Monastery's disciples had arrived at the Xiantian Dao sect, they had received quite a few provocations and insults from the other Super Monastery's disciples. Some of the 36th Super Monastery's disciples had refused to accept those insults, and they had directly attacked the insulters. As a result, quite a few of them had suffered. When Shui Wuhan had heard this, she was completely enraged. She knew this had definitely been incited by the Zhou family. They had intentionally told the super monasteries under their command to make it hard on the 36th super monastery. The 4 families were each in charge of 9 super monasteries. But because of Long Chen, she had turned hostile toward the vice sect master, which had brought on a great deal of displeasure from her family. They thought Shui Wuhan was becoming more and more impudent. She wasn't taking the big picture into consideration, and she was too headstrong. They wanted to admonish her. As a result, the Shui family's super monasteries all ignored the 36th super monastery's plight. They didn't give them any help. While the martial gathering hadn't started, the Xiantian Dao sect permitted disciples to exchange pointers with each other. As long as they didn't intentionally kill others, they wouldn't bother them. Only when there was struggle was there motivation, and only when there was motivation could a person's power explosively grow. This was a strategy of having the strong grow stronger. As for the weak, they either had to explosively grow in power or be discarded. Practically every sect was like this. Within a public place like the plaza, it was permitted for people to challenge anyone they wanted, even if the excuse was just that someone looked displeasing to them. In order to keep her people from being bullied, Shui Wuhan had told everyone not to go out. But according to the Xiantian Dao sect's rules, each super monastery had to send people to register for missions. These missions were really just some random jobs. In truth, it was just a formality, but they still had to comply with it. In order to not draw other people's attention, these two had snuck their way here. But in the end, they had been blocked on their way back. That made them extremely furious. This was intolerable bullying. What cowards! Isn't it just exchanging pointers? You don't even have that courage. Did your mother give birth to you for you to be cowards? Sneered a man with a mole in the corner of his mouth. The people behind him also let out disdainful snorts. Long Chen looked at them and saw that they came from the 25th Super Monastery. Long Chen didn't say anything. He just stood in the crowd. He wanted to see what these two would do. Boss told us that exchanging pointers is just a nonsensical game. He doesn't let us do that, said one of the Dragon Blood warriors. Boss? Haha, the Grand Xiantian Supermonastery's disciples actually use such a bumpkin appellation? Your boss is definitely a bumpkin, laughed the man. Shut up. You're the bumpkin. Our boss is Long Chen, an unrivaled genius. The two of them were completely enraged now. Seeing this, the man sneered, What genius? He's just a dead ghost. He even committed such shameful deeds that he was struck by divine punishment. Trish. You fucker. The two Dragon Blood warriors couldn't hold back any longer. They charged at him. As for the man taunting them, he was startled. He was already used to them enduring everything. As a result, one of their fists smashed right into his stomach, while another fist landed on his nose. A cracking sound rang out as he was sent flying. Bastards, how dare you use such a shameless sneak attack? The disciples following the man with the mole all roared and charged forward. Since they hadn't attacked in accordance with the rules, then they could also attack them as a group. But saber light flashed and blood flew. Those disciples hadn't expected the two of them to actually take out their weapons, and they even used killing blows. They were terrified and hastily retreated. There were only two people who had been struck by their blades. These people were elites, and they were sensitive to danger. But if they had been half a step slower, they would have been cut in two. Bastards, you want to kill people? Subdue them, shouted the man leading them while holding his nose. He shot his way forward, a sword appearing in his hand. Ah! A hand flew into the sky along with a person's scream. At the same time, a leg was cut off from the rest of the body. The person whose leg had been severed was the man with the mole. He had only just shot forward when a saber almost cut through his neck. Despite doing his best to dodge, all he managed to do was keep his life. However, the Dragon Blood warrior's saber had still severed his leg. Startled cries rang out. This was too ruthless. As soon as they collided, blood dyed the plaza. If that man hadn't retreated fast enough, he would be a headless corpse now. Long Chen nodded. The Dragon Blood warriors were elites who had killed their way out of the battlefield. Although their cultivation bases weren't high, their killing power was definitely terrifying. He had instilled a certain principle in them, either don't attack, or attack to kill. This was also why he told them not to exchange pointers. It was to keep them in the habit of only using killing blows. This habit could save their lives on the battlefield. As for this kind of exchange of pointers, it was just a senseless little test. If you did it too much, you would forget the true meaning of battle, and your techniques would become merely gaudy without any true strength. This was also why the corrupt paths experts were stronger than the righteous paths. There was no nonsense such as exchanging pointers in the corrupt path. As soon as they entered a fight, it would be a decisive battle of you die or I die. To be so vicious, there really is no saving you. Suddenly, an angry shout rang out and a man appeared. As soon as he came, a terrifying pressure forced back all the surrounding people. Runes filled the air. A celestial had actually come. As soon as he appeared, he unleashed a punch at the two of them. They hastily raised their weapons to block. They were just ordinary people. Under the manifestation of the heavenly Daos, their combat strength sharply fell, while their opponent's power surged. The two of them were immediately blown back by a terrifying force. They vomited blood, as a celestial's strength was simply irresistible. However, even in the face of a celestial, they didn't feel the slightest fear. Instead, they were filled with battle intent. They raised their weapons toward that celestial, their eyes so icily calm that it was frightening. What terrifying battle intent! The people watching were all shocked. Even in the face of an enemy they couldn't possibly defeat, their mental states weren't shaken at all. Just what level of will did that require? Courting death. Seeing that the two of them merely coughed up a mouthful of blood from his attack and pointed their weapons at him instead of immediately collapsing, the Celestial was infuriated. Countless runes lit up on his fist. Space trembled as he shot toward them. Everyone's expressions changed. Was he really going to kill them? Boom. The two Dragonblood warriors used their full strength to defend, but they were unable to bear his power. Their weapons shattered. The broken pieces pierced into their bodies. The two of them wildly vomited blood as they shot back. This attack was too terrifying. The two of them had only just crawled up from the ground when a figure appeared before them. The Celestial slammed his hands on their shoulders. Kneel! Pow! Just as they were about to be humiliated, a hand came from a strange angle. It was like the hand of a phantom, and it heavily slapped across his sinister and arrogant face. What? Everyone was shocked. A Celestial had been sent flying by a slap in the face. As he spun through the air, over 30 blood-stained teeth scattered around. Sparkling in the sunlight, it was truly a beautiful sight to behold. A slim figure stood before the two Dragonblood warriors. His black robes and long hair fluttered in the wind. His expression was confident and calm. "Boss!" The two Dragonblood warriors cried out with shock upon seeing that figure. Their voices were full of emotion and excitement. The person who had interrupted was naturally Long Chen. The only reason he hadn't taken action before was because he wanted to see what level the Dragonblood warriors had reached. To be able to face a Celestial without the slightest discouragement or fear was something that greatly satisfied Long Chen. As a martial artist, Will was just as important as talent. Good job. Long Chen patted them on the shoulders. Although they were injured, their constitutions were far above average, and there was no need to worry about their conditions. This meant they had truly bitterly trained their physical bodies during this period. "Bastard, who are you?" roared the Celestial. Long Chen slowly turned and looked at the Celestial. His gaze seemed like two sharp blades stabbing into his eyes. "Kneel." His voice was not loud, but it contained endless killing intent, as well as an unquestionable determination. The Celestial immediately felt a terrifying will lock onto him, and he felt like a mountain was crushing him. A feeling of incomparable terror welled up within him. He felt like heaven and earth had changed. It was like within the entire world, the only ones remaining were him and Long Chen, while Long Chen was a death god who had pressed his scythe against his neck. It seemed like as long as he willed it, his soul would dissipate. When Long Chen had spoken, he had concentrated all of his killing intent into his voice, and he had used his spiritual strength to lock down the Celestial. This was a spiritual constriction, as well as a competition of wills. Since this person dared to humiliate his brothers, Long Chen had expressed his will, either kneel or die. If he really did dare to resist, Long Chen would immediately unleash a thunderous strike and kill him. As for the trouble that would come, he didn't think too much about it. His only thought was that his brothers absolutely could not be humiliated. This ruckus drew countless people. As they rushed over from all directions, all they saw was Long Chen standing with his arms clasped behind his back, and a Celestial before him incessantly quivering in absolute terror. In front of everyone's stunned gazes, the Celestial was unable to bear the pressure Long Chen gave him. Just like that, he knelt on the ground. Everyone felt like their hearts had stopped pounding. What kind of monster could make a Celestial kneel with just a word? Long Chen's will and killing intent were all concentrated on the Celestial, and so others were unable to sense it. All they saw was that with one order, the Celestial knelt without even resisting. Everyone felt cold sweat on their backs. Just how terrifying was this black-robed man? After he knelt, Long Chen's terrifying will dissipated. The Celestial was shocked and infuriated. In front of everyone's disdainful gazes, he suddenly roared and smashed his fist toward Long Chen. In his fury, he directly used his full strength, and his runes erupted around him. A powerful pressure made it so the spectators could barely breathe. Long Chen unhurriedly also sent out a fist. Boom! The Celestial let out a miserable shriek. In front of everyone's flabbergasted eyes, his arm directly exploded. He himself was sent flying, unconscious from the impact. The two Dragonblood warriors behind Long Chen looked at him fanatically. Their boss truly was their boss. Each time they saw him attack, they would feel their blood boiling. The spectators all looked at Long Chen like he was a monster, especially those female disciples that had teased him before. They had never imagined this cute little brother wasn't the slightest bit cute. He was absolutely terrifying. A powerful Celestial was nothing in front of him. It was like an adult beating a child. This wasn't even a fight. As for those people who had been finding trouble for the Dragonblood warriors, the situation immediately reversed. For him to be able to practically cripple a Celestial with a wave of his hand, without even releasing the slightest bit of his aura, he was an unstoppable monster. I know. He must be the 36th Supermonastery's monster, Long Chen. Someone cried out suddenly. What? Didn't he die? How could he appear here? The Zhou and Shui families had done their best to suppress the news that he had died. After all, this news was extremely embarrassing to their two families, as well as their Xiantiandao sect. But there was naturally no way to keep this news secret. The fact that Long Chen and the corrupt experts had died under heavenly punishment was still exposed. Now that Long Chen had appeared, adding on the fact that the Dragonblood warriors were calling him boss, and then adding on his incomparably terrifying strength, they immediately thought of him. Let's go back and have a drink with the rest of our brothers, laughed Long Chen, patting the shoulders of these two brothers. The two of them were completely ecstatic. During this time, it was Tang Wan'er who had been leading them. To keep them focused on cultivation, she didn't let them drink. The taste had almost faded from their memory. Their eyes immediately began to shine at the thought of a drink. Stop. Do you think you can just leave after injuring people? Long Chen had just been about to leave when a cold shout rang out. Long Chen turned back to see 6 Celestials led by a large man. This large man had the build of a bear, and he kept his sideburns grown out. When Long Chen sized him up, his heart clenched. Rank 2 Celestial. This bear-like man had bulging muscles that seemed to possess explosive strength. He allowed his hair to just fall randomly, making him look like a savage. A berserk aura came from him that made Long Chen's heart pound. This feeling was something he had only sensed before from Huo Wufang. But this person's aura was 10 times stronger than Huo Wufang's. Huo Wufang was only able to become a rank 2 celestial because of some transplanted bones. Although he could be said to have 80% of a rank 2 celestial strength, how could strength be described that way? That strength was fundamentally not his own. It would be impressive if he could even release half of it. As for this man, he gave Long Chen a powerful pressure. He was the strongest opponent he had met so far. Heavens, it's Zhao Wuji. From the crowd, someone let out a startled cry. This person was someone only a few people in the Xiantiandao sect didn't know. That was because he had a nickname, Tyrant. Tyrant Zhao Wuji. As for why he had this nickname, one reason was because his temperament was so explosive, while the other was because his methods were so cruel. He had killed countless people. Most importantly, he had the strength to back it up. He had once torn a rank 2 celestial in half with his bare hands in one of the righteous and corrupt battles. That was what had earned him the name Tyrant. From the muttering, Long Chen learned that this person was extremely powerful. But Long Chen still felt no fear. Could it be that if I don't leave, someone will treat me to a meal? Do you know who you're talking to? Before Zhao Wuji could even speak, one of the celestials behind him sneered. Zhao Wuji waved his hand, cutting him off. You are Long Chen? Correct. So you're still alive. But whether you're alive or dead doesn't matter to me. Let me tell you, those 2 beauties of the 36th Supermonastery are mine. "It'd be best for you to scram," said Zhao Wuji threateningly. "Two beauties?" Long Chen was startled. That should be referring to Tang Wan'er and Meng Qi. Thinking of that, his fury immediately soared. This bastard wanted to snatch his women? Fuck off. What shocked everyone was that Long Chen didn't hesitate in the slightest. He directly sent a face slap at Zhao Wuji. This face slap was extremely resounding, so resounding that it shook people's ears. Some of the weaker disciples actually began to bleed from their ears. But Long Chen was also shocked. Zhao Wuji wasn't sent flying by his slap. All his slap did was make him stagger back. Furthermore, his own hand hurt. Zhao Wuji had never imagined that there would be someone in this world who dared to slap him. He was at first stunned, and then with a furious roar, he smashed his fist at Long Chen. Boom! Long Chen didn't dare be careless. Circulating his full strength, he met the attack with his own fist. A terrifying shockwave erupted, and the surrounding people were all sent flying. Long Chen felt a burst of pain from his wrist. At this time, he saw a yellow, earthen light over Zhao Wuji's fist. This was Long Chen's first time being suppressed in terms of physical strength. However, Zhao Wuji was also startled. Let alone ordinary celestials, even amongst rank 2 celestials, he had never encountered someone who dared to compete with him in terms of physical bodies. He also felt a burst of pain from his wrist, as if it was about to break. With a furious roar, a dirt yellow rune lit up on his fist, and he once more punched at Long Chen. This fist caused heaven and earth to rumble. Long Chen could sense endless energy surging into Zhao Wuji from the ground. This was his first time encountering such a strange situation. But he had no time to think about it. Zhao Wuji's fist had already arrived. Endless thunder force suddenly appeared over his hand as he met his fist. Boom! This exchange was even more vicious than the last. The entire plaza rocked as berserk energy caused the incomparably sturdy ground to crack. This horrified everyone. Zhao Wuji was ranked number 1 in terms of brute strength in the Shintiandao sect. He had never lost to anyone in the same realm in terms of strength. Who knew how many years it had been? Zhao Wuji's fame had been earned entirely through his 2 fists. He was practically unrivaled. But this seemingly weak and almost scholarly Long Chen was actually able to fight on an even level with him in terms of physical power. They found this to be inconceivable. One was a huge figure, while one was a slim figure. This disproportionate scene was extremely shocking. Boom! Neither of them was able to suppress the other, and they both shot back. "Brat, you have some skills. But with just this little power, don't even think about defeating me," said Zhao Wuji. Space suddenly trembled and endless runes condensed around him. These runes were split into 2 kinds. As expected, he truly was a rank 2 celestial. "Eat one of my fists!" Zhao Wuji roared. He suddenly soared into the sky and then leaped down on Long Chen. Seeing that Zhao Wuji had summoned his cry of the heavenly Daos, Long Chen snorted. He was just about to summon his divine ring. "Stop!" But a cold shout caused Long Chen's expression to change. He found that the space around him had solidified, and he was unable to move. As for Zhao Wuji, he was in an even worse position than Long Chen was. He was still in midair and in the same attacking posture. It was extremely comical. Long Chen was shocked. What kind of power was this? He was unable to release the slightest bit of his strength. If this person wanted to kill him, wouldn't it be as easy as turning a hand? Was this the power of the ancestor level? Long Chen suddenly thought of the Tower Ancestor. Although the Tower Ancestor had been very benevolent and amicable, he knew he was a terrifying existence. Perhaps only an ancestor-level expert would be this terrifying. In front of this power, he was just like an ant. Suddenly, the restrictive force disappeared and Long Chen recovered his freedom. He hastily looked in the direction of that voice. 2 people had come. One was a white-haired man with a dignified face. The other was a beautiful woman. Monastery head. Long Chen couldn't help crying out. Seeing Shui Wuhan now was truly great. As for Shui Wuhan, she was delighted to see him, but she immediately suppressed that emotion and rebuked. "If you were alive, why didn't you get back here sooner? Do you know how worried we were for you? Of course, she had long since known he was alive. She was just saying this to conceal that fact, as if she had had no idea he had been alive. After all, because Long Chen had died back then, the Zhou family had been forced to compensate them with a great deal of resources. Shui Wuhan had spent all those resources on the Dragon Blood Legion. It was also because of this that she had drawn the ire of her family. They had thought this compensation would be used for the entire Shui family, as the compensation they had paid was no small amount. But Shui Wuhan had ignored her family's wishes and focused completely on raising the Dragon Blood Legion. It was precisely for this reason that she had drawn her family's anger. And so when the 36th super monastery was suppressed, the Shui family didn't do anything. They were using this method to pressure Shui Wuhan into apologizing to the family. After all, she was a late sea expansion expert, one of the pillars of the entire family. They couldn't go too far against her. And yet, Shui Wuhan refused to lower her head. She didn't say a single word of apology, infuriating her family head. He had warned everyone not to help her. He wanted to see just how far she planned on enduring. "He is the Long Chen you mentioned?" asked the elder. His gaze was electric, seeming to see right through Long Chen. "Good. He's still in time to attend. Add his name to the registration." "Many thanks, Vice Sect Master," thanked Shui Wuhan. "Long Chen, hurry and thank the Vice Sect Master. In truth, you're already late. If it weren't for the Vice Sect Master's words just now, you'd have lost the qualifications to attend." "Many thanks, Vice Sect Master." Long Chen didn't know what was going on, but since Shui Wuhan ordered him, he hastily thanked him. The Vice Sect Master nodded. All of a sudden, he icily said, "You two really were brazen. Do you not know it is not permitted to fight here?" Long Chen was startled. This Vice Sect Master had turned hostile out of the blue. To tell the truth, his face was not very friendly looking, so as soon as his expression darkened, it was truly a bit frightening. "Vice Sect Master, it's Long Chen who went too far." Seeing Long Chen keeping his mouth tightly shut, Zhao Wuji could only try to explain. "Shut up. I don't care about your excuses." To fight right in front of the ancestor statue is a blasphemy to the founder, shouted the Vice Sect Master. He didn't give him any chance to explain. Long Chen was laughing inside. Zhao Wuji was truly an idiot. He couldn't even tell what kind of temperament this Vice Sect Master had. Did he think he was someone who would find justice for him? It was precisely because he had seen through what kind of character the Vice Sect Master possessed that Long Chen had kept his mouth shut. But as expected, this idiot Zhao Wuji didn't understand that. Seeing Long Chen rolling his eyes, Shui Wuhan couldn't help sighing. When it came to slyness, perhaps there weren't that many people who could exceed Long Chen. Zhao Wuji ended up taking quite the blow. She had previously gone to find the Vice Sect Master just to keep the registration open for Long Chen. The actual registration had already ended. They would be moving out for the trial region tomorrow, and the trial was to begin 3 days from now. Back in the super monastery, she had constantly been paying attention to news from the Pill Tower. She knew that Long Chen had taken first place at the Pill Emperor competition. Theoretically, he should have quickly returned. But he still didn't return after all that time, and once she had brought everyone to the Xiantian Dao sect, she had lost her connection to the outside world's news. She could only try stalling for time with the Vice Sect Master. Today was the day they were to completely set the quotas. If Long Chen still hadn't come, he wouldn't be able to attend the trial. Shui Wuhan had been in the midst of coaxing the Vice Sect Master when the two of them had felt the fluctuations of a battle. As a result, they had arrived just in time to stop this battle. "Since the trial is about to start, I won't give you much punishment. The two of you must repair all the bricks here perfectly, or don't even think about attending the trial. And if anyone helps, you'll all lose your qualifications," ordered the Vice Sect Master. Just like that, he turned and left. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.